I would like to welcome everybody to our regular council meeting for Monday, June 15th. I'd like to call the council meeting to order. Welcome to our attendees in the audience. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi peoples, and of the Huron-Wendat peoples. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and of all the original peoples of Turtle Island who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial. If you are able, please stand for our national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command.
À ton bras c'est porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée, tes plus brillants exploits.
God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. I will go to Director Malandrucolo for a closed meeting report from Monday, June 1st.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi, through you. Council met and closed on Monday, June 1st, 2026 at 9:05 p.m. pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, Sections 239(2)E, F, and J to discuss legal updates that affect the municipality. And that is the extent of my report.
Thank you, Director Malandrucolo. Any declarations of conflicts of interest this evening from members of council? Seeing none, if you find yourself in conflict later, just let us know. Need a mover and a seconder the adoption of the published agenda for the regular council meeting for June 15th. And we're going to be adopting it as amended. We're going to move up 10.1, and that is the report on the development charges. And there are going to be 2 notices of motions entered tonight by myself as well. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Verbeek, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Adoption of the minutes from the regular meeting of June 1st. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Mady, Councillor Guerin, any questions? All in favor? That's carried. Looking for a mover and a seconder that we adopt the special council meeting minutes for May 15th. Moved by Councillor McGuire-Blaze, supported by Councillor Mady. Any comments or questions? And this is the report where you see that we were successful working with the BIA and finding some surplus garbage pails. So you'll see some garbage pails out in Ward 1 after our walkabout. Pretty exciting news. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Looking for a mover and a seconder the special council meeting minutes for June 1st. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. There are no public presentations tonight, no unfinished business. So we will go to reports from administration. We'll go to our CAO and we will pull up that one report.
Thank you, through the chair. Just going to wait a moment. So the first report, we should be on the slideshow. Brendan, if you can. It would be part of the addendum that's going to be presented first. Just bear with us one moment. So before we get started, council will notice, as well as the public, that a memo was posted late this afternoon, approximately 4:30 p.m. And it was on very new information that administration received on a call today with the Ministry of Municipal Housing and Affairs. This call was hosted The invite was sent out this morning around 10 a.m. The call was at 1:30 p.m. and it was to address some of the information they had seen in other local municipalities and in our report as well, pertaining to how we interpreted program guidelines, and it did in fact change the financial analysis within the report. Because of the extremely tight timelines, we did not have time to go in and actually adjust the council report, but we were able to adjust the financial models and include all of those adjustments in the PowerPoint presentation. So we do have accurate information within the PowerPoint presentation that we are going to walk through today, and it does the information that came to light at today's meeting. I'll explain it as we go through the slideshow. Does not change administration's recommendation. Administration's recommendation is that we participate in the program, but it does change the financial analysis. So if we could scroll to the next slide. So as you can see, any edits that were a reflection of our 1:30 call have been noted in red so that you're very clear on what has changed from our initial report. Next slide. Next slide, please. So this grant was very recently introduced to municipalities across Ontario. June 1st was the date of the announcement, where we learned that the province, in partnership with the federal level of government, was introducing a $8.8 billion fund that is intended to support housing and accelerate housing development. The applications are due June 19th. So this is the reason for the fast turnaround. We've been given 19 days to prepare very expansive financial models with, to be honest, very limited information in the program guidelines. So we've done our best, but there does need to be the disclaimer that estimates and conservative approaches had to be used when we did this. You know, the fact that we were on a call today at 1:30 and clarity was required by all of our locals goes to show that this is very much a work in progress still. And so we ask that you bear with us as we walk through this. Also, there is no extension at this point to that due date. I did ask that question today on the call. Next slide. So in order to be eligible for this funding, municipalities must have a development charge bylaw in place as of March 30th, 2026. Municipalities must commit to reducing residential DCs in effect by anywhere from 30 to 50% or greater, and for a minimum of 3 years. And they must apply the development charge reduction to all residential development. So even if the recommendation is for Ward 1 projects, all DCs across the entire municipality need to be reduced, regardless of where the project might be occurring. So when an application is submitted jointly, we must make sure that we are matching the exact same submission as a joint municipality. And so we do have a consideration further on when it comes to the McGregor Sewage Lagoon, which is a shared asset. And so we'll discuss what that looks like further on. Next slide, please. So within the guidelines are 3 criteria that the ministry will look at when awarding funds to municipalities. The first one is the DC rate reduction. And today we learned that what that really means is how much development charges have reduced in the 3-year period. The second is the housing impact, how many new homes and how many homes will benefit from this reduction. And the third is how much are we willing to put forward to the project. Other factors that they'll look at in the submission will include shovel readiness. So if land has already been acquired for a certain project, if it's already well on its way in the design phase, all of those factors will also help in the awarding of a successful grant. And then ultimately, they do want to see more core infrastructure types of projects. So your water, your wastewater, storm, rather than community benefit, but they will still look at community buildings within the applications. Next slide, please. So in order to determine which projects would make the most financial sense, what administration did was a very thorough analysis of the current DC study, because again, per the guidelines, it has to be within our DC study. So we had to choose a threshold because ultimately, if we're going to waive DCs across the entire municipality, we have to make sure that we're not, in essence, losing money on certain projects. So you'll see that analysis further on, but it should be a larger dollar value project to try and maximize our grant revenues at the end of the day was what we looked at. And so it needs to be new infrastructure. That is the idea of growth. Growth pays for growth. So it should be entirely new. We can't use it for replacement, for example. And within the parameters, we must be willing to have the project completed by October 31st, 2035. The ministry did say today that they'd be willing to work with us if we were close and couldn't quite meet that date, as long as we were working to achieve that deadline. And then it has to be to enable new housing. Next slide, please. So as a municipality, when we put forward projects, we have to show that we've done our due diligence and we can show that we can fund the other portions of the project, whether it be maintenance or whether it be the life cycle replacement costs. And then it will eventually become part of our asset management plan moving forward. And we will do our duties to consult and make sure the projects are aligning with our Ontario Building Code. Next slide, please. So this is where you'll start to see some of the changes from today's call. And so initially, the report was under the assumption that they would cover 90% of eligible project costs. Today, we learned that they would cover up to the amount of waived or reduced development charges. And so we do have those numbers crunched within the report. They would include in their land acquisition costs for the provincial share of their funds, and then hard costs such as construction, labor, equipment, things of that nature. But any environmental assessment or design costs would also be included. Next slide. So certain projects were ineligible. This is direct from the program guidelines that if construction had already commenced, then it would not be an eligible project. And if it was only planning or design, they wanted to see construction and hard services happen. And if it was just rehab, and so there was no growth component, it wouldn't qualify as well. Next slide. So as you can see here, if you could just stay on this slide, Brennan, but scroll down a touch so we could see thank you, that's perfect. As you can see here, we have listed 6 projects. So, and we have it under the heading Project 1. The way that the grant application is set up is that we can bundle smaller or like projects in a ward or geographical area where we know that it will spur housing. So we isolated Ward 1 and the like projects fell under the transportation summary category. So what you'll see here, a couple of things to note. Obviously, later on tonight, you're going to see that we're bringing the tender award for Maidstone Ave and Talbot. So this project does not include the underground work. We've componentized it so that we would still be eligible for this because one of the parameters was that construction couldn't start. So we've componentized it so that it will only be the roads work in this submission. So what you see here is the almost $10 million of possible grant funding. And this is derived from the amount of predicted reduced development charges. And it's allocated to the projects based on their proration of the total project cost. And so all of these are from within the development charge study. And they, I don't really have anything else to add on this. We'll go to the next slide. The second project is a Ward 4 benefiting project. It is upgrades to the Harrow Raw Sewage Pump Station. And again, it was allocated based on its prorated share of the waived development charges. So just under 50% would be estimated to be funded through the grant program. Next slide, please. And so when we start to look at the total application submission, what you're seeing here is $10.8 million. And that lines up exactly with our prediction of what we would be no longer collecting in waived development charges. So that is the prediction of the 50% waiver for the 3-year period. And that's what we were told today is the maximum ceiling for grant funds. But what we were also told today is if not many people partake in the program, if there's low competition, we might get awarded more. So we were told that's the minimum, but there could be the ability for further award. We wouldn't know that until the ministry advised us of such. Next slide. And so it does ultimately have a benefit of just under 1,000 homes. And this is directly as part of the development charge reduction. And then the housing units to be enabled, this would be The amount of units tied to all of those projects within our development charge study would be just over 2,700 homes. Next slide. And so at this point, I'm going to pass it over to our Director of Corporate Services, Kate Rowe, and she's going to walk through how we are going to come up with our portion of the project costs.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. So on this slide here, we look at a few different scenarios for the development charge reductions. The reason that we're presenting 3 different scenarios to you is to help walk through the decision-making that we made to arrive at the most competitive reduction without any undue risk to the town in terms of any losses that we might incur by going too far. And so in terms of a sweet spot, so to speak, the 50% reduction was really the scenario where we felt like we were putting forward an application that represented our commitment to these reductions, but also was financially viable for us. And we'll continue to kind of explore that through the next couple of slides here, but just a really good snapshot of what we looked at before landing on the 50% reduction. Next slide, please. The next slide here just walks you through the total project costs as well as the grant funding and the remainder to be funded by the town. The CAO spoke to this earlier, but we are looking at DCRP grant funds of approximately 10.8 million, which leaves us with just over 11 to fund from other sources. And the ministry did make very clear that we can't collect this through DCs on future development. We need to look to other sources, and we'll walk you through that in a few slides. So the next slide here talks about how we'll navigate the contribution. So as mentioned, the contributions of 18.3 million would be recovered through long-term debt, which is in the middle there. But we would also look at our OCIF and other grant funding to try and maximize the opportunities through those grant programs to apply to these projects. We do have asset management and other reserves assigned. And I think it's important to note that these funding sources were there before and after this application. These aren't net new funding sources. These are ones that we would tap into regardless of the outcome of this program, and something that we were already contemplating before this announcement came into place. And so again, that middle category, the long-term debt, is what's left after. And the reason that we're recommending debt is that this allows us to stretch out those remaining costs over time and ensure that we're not burdening our current or future ratepayers disproportionately, that it's going to be even over time. I'm getting a cue from the CAO that she'd like to add to that as well.
Thank you. So I just want to make a quick note. You're seeing at the top, it's over a 10-year horizon. So these projects will be staggered in their construction start and end times, which means the funding will be staggered. So I don't want anyone to think that we're going to go out and take a loan for $9.6 million, because that may not happen. What could end up happening is it's staggered, or we actually start to collect the taxation revenue from the new growth a touch sooner, and we don't need an amount of that much for debt. So it is a 10-year period, and what Director Rowe was stating is OCIF and other types of grant, our asset management, these projects are included in our long-term capital plan. And so really the intent of this grant is to just accelerate the construction of it and allow us to do it a lot sooner than we might have waiting on development. Sorry, Director Rowe, thank you.
Thank you. Good points of clarification there. Next slide, please. We do want to highlight the projects that were evaluated and not recommended. I'll walk through this list, and then the CAO may have more to add as we walk through, but We of course looked at Fire Station 3, which was already in construction. We took a look at the Essex Sports Fields complex, and you can see that the note there is that we assessed the debt levels to be too high to include that in submission. We looked at the McGregor Sewage Lagoon expansion. As the CIO noted earlier, that any shared infrastructure would require a joint application, and this would require Amherstburg's endorsement. As I understand, they are presenting to council tonight. We also looked at the Colchester Water Pollution Control Plant as well as the Colchester Park Pavilion, and you can see that the rationale there is high risk in estimating housing. I will pass it over to the CIO to elaborate on the elimination of these projects.
Thank you, through the chair. So some of them are quite easy to walk through. Obviously, Fire Station 3, there's a shovel in the ground, so right away deemed ineligible. When it comes to Essex Sports Field Complex, the amount in the development charge study was run through the scenarios, and we would have had to take debt in excess of $20 million because a large portion of that project was benefit to existing. So it was considered the replacement of our existing. That one wasn't run through the scenarios. The McGregor Sewage Lagoon is an interesting one. And as we continue on with the presentations and the questions, I'm going to ask Director Rowe, try to get an update on what is going on at the Amherstburg meeting. Because if for some reason they did endorse that project, administration's recommendation would be that we co-apply with them. That one does make sense from our perspective because our share of the costs are 100% growth. It doesn't make sense as we've spoke with Amherstburg administration on their end, because theirs is a large benefit to existing. And so their debt would be in excess of $20 million for that. And they would only receive the similar amount of grant funds as we would for their share, which would be a much larger. The Colchester Water Pollution Control Plant. So you will see there's a lot of detail as to why we didn't include this report. There's been a lot of conversation in this term of council on proceeding with this project or not. Most recently, the local settlement area review has also brought up some overland flooding concerns as well as where we would like to direct future growth. And so given all of those conversations, given the past decision of council on not proceeding with the second intake for the housing enabling grant stream, it was recommended that we don't submit an application at this time. Really the reason for that is that the province has the ability to claw back the grant funds if we don't meet our housing target. So if we aren't confident that development is going to occur there, we should not be applying for it because it would be very high risk of having to repay those funds, but being in the middle of a construction project. And then the Colchester Pavilion is the exact same notion. If we aren't feeling very confident in the growth numbers that we're going to put forward to the province, we should not be applying because there'd be the risk of clawback from the province. Next slide, please. So you'll see that there are a few resolutions in the body of the report, and the resolutions are that we proceed forward with an application. The footnote would be that we would come back to council before any transfer payment agreement is entered into, and we would bring you new financial models once we know what or if we are successful, once we know what we would be awarded. This is very important because it depends on which projects the province decides to approve. And hopefully at that point, we will have more clarity on the program guidelines as we continue along this process. But really the overall tone on the call with the ministry today was really encouraging us to apply, letting us know that there's 8.8 billion of funds. They plan to only do one intake, so they are going to award the 8.8 billion in one hurrah, essentially. And so, you know, the underlying tone was don't leave any money on the table. However, we would never want to put council in a situation where, you know, there's not fiscally responsible decisions being made. And so because of the uncertainty surrounding the grant amounts, we would recommend applying and then seeing if we were successful, coming back with a financial model with more certainty. And so as part of that, it would mean a reduction of development charges across the municipality for the 3-year period at 50%. And that would be across the entire municipality. So at this point, we're happy to open it up to any questions that council has.
Thank you, CAO and Director Rowe. I have Counselor Hammond first.
Yes, thank you, and through you, Mayor. My initial question is, are we prepared to achieve this number at this time, or are we speculating that we can achieve this number?
Through the chair, so I would say it's a little bit of both. Intent is that we are going to achieve the numbers that we have in the application. In order to do so, we may need to make some aggressive decisions when it comes to development. And that really is the intent of the province's goal as well. And so an estimate is only as good as an estimate, but we would really have to monitor our targets and make sure that we're achieving them to reduce any risk of fund clawback.
Excuse me. So through you again, Mayor, so we still, if we do get accepted for this grant, we still have the option to turn it down should we, through further investigation, find out that we're stretching our limit there? Not that I want to do that.
Through the chair, that is correct. We would come back to council with the drafted transfer payment agreement.
Counselor McGuire Blaze, then Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Thank you, through the chair. I just want to confirm the 50% DC reduction that we have to take on for the next 50 years, for the next 3 years. Is that for residential, industrial, and commercial, or just residential?
Through the chair, that is only for residential.
And then my next question through the chair, some of these projects that are listed, we have partnerships with, so funds are coming from other sources such as MTO. How does that work if we're given the grant, let's say the Hanlon extension, and there's a couple parties? Does the grant funds go towards our portion, or is it split up amongst all of the parties?
Through the chair, great question. So it would go to the portion that was funded through development charges. So our portion, essentially. There would not be, if they do permit stacking, and so there would not be a reduction on the other parties' contributions because of this.
Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Through the mayor, couple of questions. I've got a few. So the funding sources we're going to use to make up the gap, like the OCIF, are those things that we would usually use somewhere else? And is there going to be a shortfall now in other areas because we're going to use these to make up the difference?
Through you, Mayor, we did take that into consideration. We certainly wouldn't want to take from other projects to give to these. As the CIO mentioned earlier, these aren't new sources of funding. These are funding strategies that were already in place and just modified slightly to meet the needs of this grant application. And so, as the CIO mentioned earlier, it just expedites our ability to start on these projects and get them constructed, as opposed to shifting funding around. We did, when looking at OCIF and other grants, take a conservative approach in that we portioned out a small chunk of those funding sources for these purposes, leaving room for other projects to be funded as, from those sources as well.
I saw you reaching for your mic, so I wasn't sure. Okay, so then I've got some other ones. So will the high debt levels that we're going to look at taking, will that affect us in completing the Essex sports fields? Because if we were looking at taking on any debt in order to complete those, by taking debt on here, that puts us at, does that put us at a risk where we wouldn't be able to take any debt to complete that project?
Through you, Mayor, that is a great question. We, of course, will continue to monitor our ARL levels. It is a requirement of this grant and the annual reporting that would follow if we are successful for this application. When we were doing the financial modeling, we did assess whether this level of debt would put us in a position to constrain our choices financially, whether it's funding other projects through debt. And we do feel that the growth and the supplemental housing that will happen sooner as a result of these projects happening sooner will support the annual repayment for this program itself. And so we were mindful and cautious that we weren't going to overcommit ourselves, and that the growth spurred by this program will help support the future debt payments.
Okay, then my last question would be on the Amherstburg portion. If we were to include that, are we guaranteed any source of capacity if that were to get funded? Where Essex would be guaranteed a capacity amount?
Yeah, through the chair, I could take that question. So we haven't worked out those details with the town of Amherstburg yet. Through the EA process, we're only just learning of what the figures will be for growth on both sides of the border. Those will play a major factor in whatever allocation that we would receive. As the CEO mentioned, there is a pretty large, substantial benefit to existing, which, you know, the town of Essex would expect would be paid for directly by the town of Amherstburg. And the growth component would be the portion that we would share. So I would say that we don't, just to summarize, we don't know exactly what that share would be, but it would be only growth related.
Okay, thank you. And just maybe some clarification on when you said construction, if it's already started, it couldn't be included. You meant on things that we can use the funds for, as opposed to, because it's retroactive for the housing, we're up back, so they can still get it, but we can't go backwards and say, okay, thank you. That was the clarification I was looking for.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have Councillor Mady, then Councillor Guerin.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The funding for, so we say that we're going to cut our development charges 50%. That's like 10.8 million. Is that only if we get the full grant funding? If they claw back some of the funding, we get to claw back some of our development charges?
Thank you, through the chair. So that is correct. This waiver or reduction would only be contingent on success in the grant. So we would only implement that change if we were successful in obtaining the grant. And then what would happen is, because they're dedicated to roads, that portion of the development charge would ultimately be reduced going forward.
Yeah, thank you, and through you, Chair. Yeah, so does that mean that, like, anything off of that 10.8, we get to increase our development charges back up for?
Through the chair, if I'm understanding your question correctly, after the 3-year period, development charges could be reinstated to 100%. But if within our study, we've completed identified projects, we would have to do an exercise to reduce the development charge so that we're no longer charging for completed projects.
Yeah, thanks. No, I think what I'm saying is that, so we're committing $10.8 million. We're saying we're going to waive those development charges. So that's, we're putting that money in the pot. But if we only get 2 or 3 of these then we're not going to receive $10.8 million worth of funding. So it would be much better for us just to keep our development charges instead of going after that.
Through the chair, that is right. Your theory is right. And that is why once we see what we might be awarded for, we would come back to council with new financial models. So if for some reason the province said, you know, we're only going to award you the 3 projects that are $6 million, right? We would come back to council saying this doesn't make financial sense.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, so there's some clarification there and what I was going to ask. So through the mayor, the grant's not tied to every project in there. They can pick and choose. We can get them all, or we may not get them all. So that being said, so the grant pool seems to be a lot of money, but we're one municipality of 444 that are, and we're not that large. How confident are we that the projects we have on there, we would be able to get that kind of money? Or would the pool be shrunk so much that they may say to us, you applied for all these and you you're fit to do them all, but we don't have enough money to do them. Are we confident we can get that kind of money?
Through the chair, after today's call, I can't say I am. You know, there was a lot of speculation on the call. There was a lot of comments made that, you know, this is meant to benefit very fast-growing GTA-specific municipalities. So I don't know, but our thoughts at the end of today's call and lots of conversations with directors is we don't know if we don't try. And, you know, no commitment until we sign a transfer payment agreement. So that was where we ended up landing today.
Okay, we'll go back. I have Councillor Hammond and Deputy Mayor Shepley. Any other members of council? Okay, I'll add Councillor Allard.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Yeah, question regarding compliance. The property must be owned, but another topic regarding Buy Canadian and Buy Ontario, is this gonna pose a problem or a risk if we're unable to follow through with that? Because it's mentioned later on in our regular agenda that this is a potential problem. Do we see any future problems with compliance for this grant?
Through the chair, not at this point. There's always the risk that the tenders come in higher as a result of these new process and the acts that you're referring to. But we don't have that information to believe that yet. If anything, I believe the market will become accustomed to these new rules, and you'll start to see the prices level out after they become familiar with the Buy Canadian. So I would say the longer we get down the road, the more you're going to see suppliers understand the rules and make sure they're submitting competitive bids.
Okay, and on the other end of funding that, suppose we get an overwhelming response and everybody wants to get in the ground right away and we have to borrow that 10 million right off the bat. What could that potentially cost us by the time we're done?
Through the chair. So we were not able to run that scenario because of the timing of the projects, right? So when you look at the development charge study, you're seeing that some projects were slated, i.e. Maidstone Talbot intersection for 2026 construction, whereas other intersections, Talbot Gosfield, were not slated until 2030. So we would try to stagger all of that. So it would likely be staggered debt. It wouldn't be 10 million at once. We would ultimately not try to take debt, right? And try to make sure that we had some taxation revenue before we had to enter into that. But that wasn't a scenario we were able to run because of the uncertainty here. In the second round, if we're successful, we can try to run some of those projections.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Allard, but while I do, just to the CAO, is the resolution still the same since the meeting this afternoon?
Yes, through the chair it is.
Okay, I have Councillor Allard, then Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Yeah, I had a question. I forgot it now. I just wanted to clarify that we will know before we say yes, how much we're getting and how much is, okay, thank you.
Thank you through the chair. So my last question would just be is, if we apply for this and we get, you know, lackluster amount, half of what we're expecting, and we turn it down, do we risk damaging our relationship going forward with future grant requests from this province by doing that?
Through the chair, potentially. That is a potential. But you also might risk it by not applying. So I think we have to look at it in that regard. But I can say the tone on the call today was that all municipalities were taking a similar approach to us in the local area.
Any other member of council? I have a couple questions myself. Has anybody from our administration talked to the development community? Have they reached out to us asking us to do this, or are they in support?
Through the chair, I haven't heard from them. I'm sure they're happy about this announcement. You know, we are often, when we meet with them, asked the question of, is there anything that we can do to get development charges down? That's always a question that's asked to us at any general meeting. But I also think that we haven't been able to have those conversations due to the really small time frame we've been dealing with here, so.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Council Meady?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. So one of my concerns is in Ward 3, we have a lot of land that's already slated for development. And like the CAO had pointed out, there's a lot of concern on that land. I'm kind of concerned if we waive our development charges out there with all the proposed projects outside of Ward 3. If Ward 3 needs help to get this development done, if they need help with the ditches and they need help with drainage, where would that money come from?
Through the chair. So right now, when we look at site specific, it is the developer responsibility to make sure that they're equipping their developments with the proper infrastructure.
Okay, along with this grant application, I would love to extend the olive branch to our MPP and just to walk through the Essex projects with him, just to see if it make him more aware of what exactly we're applying for. There was a recent article in the Essex Free Press alluding to the fact that we didn't apply for the brick and mortar plant in Colchester, and that's why we're flooding. So these grants are great. I think growth pays for growth. This is the direction we want to go. I think it shows the development community we want to grow. And also it shows the province that we want to partake in any grant money they're giving away. But these grants are not going to solve the flooding issue. So it's really important that I think we have a meeting with our MPP as well to know that we are going to apply for this. We want to apply for this, but this isn't going to be the be all and end all for flooding. Completely separate issue is flooding. You know, the province doesn't put a lot of grants out there. I don't think really any for existing homes that are experiencing flooding. So I just wanted to respond to that letter in the Essex Free Press. I'm going to read the resolution and look for support from council. The CAO report entitled Development Charge Reduction Program be received, and that council authorize the CAO or treasurer to apply to the province's Ontario Development Charge Reduction Program, for eligible projects identified in tables 2 and 3, and that council endorse a reduction of residential development charges of 50% for a minimum 3-year period, subject to successful funding approval. Looking for a mover and a seconder from council. Moved by Councilor McGuire Blaze, supported by Councilor Guerin. Any other comments to the motion? So we all are understanding that it's going to come back. CAO Jurcevic.
Through the chair, oh my goodness, sorry, I'm struggling with this mic tonight. Through the chair, before we head to the vote, I do just want to commend our staff on this one. It really was a true team effort, and everyone in this room basically dropped everything that was on their desk to get this application or get the report into a point where we can actually apply. And so everyone that's in this room played a big part in it. Rayanne, who's not here, will take it from here should council vote in support. So she'll have a busy few days, but it really was a team effort, and it was great to see everybody chip in. Thank you.
Thank you. My apologies. I should have thanked staff as well. Do it because I do know that they were working on this a lot. One final question, and the report's great. It breaks down every project. It gives us something to defend when we're not applying for the Colchester. It gives us something to defend when we're not applying for the sports field. Is this slideshow on our agenda package? That's a question
Through the chair, yes, it is. It's in the revised addendum package.
Okay, perfect. There you go. So members of the public can find it. Any other questions? Councilor McGuire, please.
Thanks through the chair. We're gonna put, hopefully this goes through, we put it through, it comes back and we decide, you know what, they're only giving us $3 million. It's not worth our money. Do we still have to commit to reducing DC charges or DCs?
Through the chair, no, we would not.
Councilor Guerin.
Thanks, your Mayor. Yeah, just when does the clock start on it? Once we get approvals of any kind, it comes back to us. Does the clock start on that day, or is it, or does the province tell us when it starts and ends?
Through the chair, we understand that, is it 2035, Director Rowe, is the final date? I'll have her pull it up. But they are wanting all transfer payment agreements signed before lame duck, which is August 21st. So we understand they're going to make their decisions sometime in July and then present the amounts to us. So the August 11th meeting, we'd be hopefully presenting council what we might have been awarded. And then the clock, we're allowed to start construction the date of signing of the TPA.
Okay, through the mayor. I was talking more about the 3-year window, when the clock starts, and is that like when we approve our first job, or?
Through the chair, it's actually retroactive. They would make us start at March 30th, 2026. So we would have to retroactively go back to March 30th, 2029.
Okay, thank you. Good discussion, council. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? And we have Deputy Mayor Shepley and Councillor Mady opposed. Okay, moving on. Sorry to our staff members that were scheduled earlier and we bumped you. I did not want a tired council for that report. So we have Mr. Nelson Silvera here to bring us through our downtown vacancy report. Welcome, Nelson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So to give you some background on this report, we have done this every 2 years since 2017, minus 2019. That was a COVID year, and we didn't do the report. But before I get into it, into the verbal report, I want to give a big shout out to Rayanne Schroeder, our Economic Development and Business Relations Analyst, and Ella Riccio DeRocher, who's our Economic Development Summer Student, for the research they did on this report. It is a lot of going out there and counting storefronts and seeing who's open, who's not open. So there's a huge research component to this project. So just a big shout out to them. The town's commercial vacancy rates continue to improve every year. We're currently at the lowest vacancy rate since tracking began in 2017. Essex Center's vacancy rate decreased to 4.19%, as you'll see in the report. That's down from 4.76 in 2024. Harrow's vacancy rate reduced significantly. So they're sitting at 2.13%, down from just about 5% in 2024. So both downtowns are performing, I would say, well below the consensus of about 6 to 8%, I would say, is what you'd see in a healthy downtown. There's this misconception that 0%, you want zero vacancy in your downtown. That is a misconception. You want some vacancy, not a lot, but some, because without some vacancy, there's no room for growth or new opportunity or a new business to come in and open up shop. So to have some options for entrepreneurs and business owners to have available property to move in is good. You also don't want to be above that 8-10% threshold either. So there is a little bit of wiggle room there. Essex Center currently has 9 vacant commercial units out of 215 storefronts, while Harrow only has 2 out of 94 storefronts. So again, it's a good problem to have, which I've indicated in the report as well. So I'd say low vacancy rates in general are very positive of overall economic health. But they also highlight a growing challenge that we have, which is limited availability of commercial space for new businesses, especially in Harrow. So what we've put in the report is we've identified some vacant commercial lands with redevelopment potential in Harrow. That'll continue to support planning initiatives that could create additional commercial opportunities through the new official plan. And we've also added some proposed commercial units that are being are in the works for downtown Harrow as well. So I guess the overall takeaway for council is that this vacancy study demonstrates that Essex Center and Harrow continue to experience strong business retention and investment, with both downtowns at their lowest vacancy rates on record. But we also need to highlight that there is a need for additional commercial space to support future growth as well. So welcome to take any questions from council. Leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. Silvera. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. So these low the low rates, is it because we've reduced the commercial footprint, and this council has reduced commercial by turning it into residential? That obviously has played a part in this, and now you're coming and saying that we need to have more commercial. So we've shot ourselves in the foot because we were told that we could easily reduce these commercial properties into residential. It's not your fault, Mr. Silvera. It's just something that I noticed that, and I've been against reducing that commercial footprint. And then now I'm hearing that we don't have enough.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't, if there are maybe a couple, I don't see that being the huge issue. What I see previously is storefronts that were previously vacant are now filled with commercial enterprises. I don't see it being a or residential replacing commercial issue. There could be one or two instances of that, but that's not going to affect the overall 215 available storefronts.
Thank you. Through you. So we have reduced it on more than a couple. The home hardware land being a primary large example of that. And then the Colchester one that haven't completely approved yet. We've reduced the square footage on the main floor to being a shallower amount, allowing the residential to creep in there as well. So I'm just what's done is done, but I'm just hoping that in the future, when we look at removing commercial designation, we certainly take this report into consideration. Thank you.
Any other comments from any members of council? Council McGuire, please.
Thanks through the chair. Just for clarification, when we're talking vacancy, are you talking vacant land or just buildings?
Through you, Madam Mayor, this report only looks at vacant commercial buildings.
Thanks through the chair. So what we've removed, like the home hardware lands, that was it was vacant land that we converted. So was that considered like that building was removed since 2022 when the last study was done, or 2024, I guess?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it would have been considered as the removal of one commercial unit out of 216 previous units.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to say through the chair, great work on the report. I shared it over the weekend with the Essex BIA, and they had nothing but good things to say. Some comments that were made by the businesses were for their beliefs, just so you have some feedback, was they think that it is communication with the town that helps fill our stores. The new downtown streetscapes that we've done have definitely helped. They've heard a lot of feedback from the businesses that say, the town invested in us. And so they feel like people are coming in because we're investing in our town. And then the BIA and the chamber, they also think that with the support of both those units, it helps businesses stay and helps businesses want to come. So we are seeing quite a bit of turnover on those properties that, are readily available. For a quick example, Crafty Candles is moving out of Essex, but immediately will be replaced with Ocean Bottom Soap. So we're seeing that quick turnover, and our stores that are affordable and available are turning over quickly. And I think it has a lot to do with our administration, the communication, the BIA, the chamber, and what our council is putting into the community. So thank you for the report. Thank you to administration, and thank you to the BIA and the chamber.
Thank you, Councillor McGuire Blaze, for bringing that to the BIA and sharing those nice comments with us. I'm sure it's nice for our administration to hear. Councillor Heyman?
Yes, thank you. And through you, Mayor. I'm just wondering if we really didn't have a lot of vacancies to begin with, but now that they seem to be filled up, can we associate any of that to our recent growth?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I would definitely associate that with growth. I would associate that with, as Councillor McGuire Blaze mentioned, the streetscape projects in both the downtown centers. If you actually look at the reduction since 2017, you will see that the growth in the municipality over that 9-year, 10-year period, 9-year period, is directly correlated with growth, streetscape projects, and new investment in the downtown center.
So follow up onto that, with our anticipated growth in the near future, how much more residential space will be needed?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I can't answer that question in terms of residential space. What we're looking at today is commercial. The official plan will set out, you know, in terms of residential, what we will need, but in terms of commercial, like we've mentioned in the report, there is a significant need for commercial in Harrow. When we talk about 2% vacancy, that's 2 storefronts out of 97, I think. There is no vacancy. On King Street, especially at a 57 units, you're looking at 0, not 1 unit available for rent. There are opportunities coming. Like I mentioned in the report, there are 2 developments that are going to add thousands of square feet of additional space for potential entrepreneurs or business owners. Again, good problem to have. Could be on the other side of the spectrum as well. But this makes, you know, there's some additional decisions that need to be made for commercial growth in the downtown center. So.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Meady.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I can't recall, was there ever a study like this done for the Main Street in McGregor and the Main Street in Colchester?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, not to say that we couldn't do it for Colchester. We probably wouldn't do it for McGregor. I don't think, other than the old Home Hardware. In terms of the Essex side of McGregor, there is no commercial, I don't believe. There is commercial on the Amherstburg side. So like, it's a conversation to be had in the future if we do go that route. We could look at it in Colchester. I think, you know, the town is growing and there's an opportunity to look at, you know, commercial vacancies down there. I don't know if there is many, but something that we can consider at a future report for sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Garron.
Thanks, Through the Mayor. Yeah, just a couple comments. And we also have 1, 2 businesses that are buildings are there that they won't rent out. So that affects us as well. So you keep that in mind. I thought the report was really good. I was surprised to learn in Essex Center that nearly 1 in 5 of the businesses of the total 200 plus are restaurants. I was really surprised to see that. But I guess when you add up all the pizza places, I guess they add up.
Who doesn't like pizza? I also think that not all commercial is created equal. You know, the ones that I feel like since I've been here that have gone to residential, the landlords have tried really hard to rent them out as commercial spaces and it hasn't been successful. And I would rather, if they're not having success, I would rather have a resident living there because it's not a great ideal commercial space than have it be vacant because that resident can go support all of our other commercial places. So it's great. So I'm wondering if we take the direction to include Colchester in the 2028 report. It comes back in 2 years, if that could be a friendly amendment to receiving the report. Okay, at this point, looking for a mover and a seconder that the report be received for information and that it will come back in 2 years and include Colchester. Moved by Councilor Meady, supported by Councilor Hammond. Any questions? All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Silvera, and please thank Rayanne for us as well. Moving on to the anticipated potential impacts on Buy Ontario. Mr. Jackson Tang is here. Welcome, Jackson.
Thank you, through the Mayor. I'm going to provide a brief summary of the Buy Ontario Act. So in 2025, the Ontario government established the Buy Ontario Act, and in April 2026, the Management Board of Cabinet issued the Municipal Buy Ontario Procurement Directive. So the purpose of this Buy Ontario Act is to promote Ontario business, strengthen domestic supply chain, support Ontario manufacturing and jobs, use the public sector procurement as an economic development strategic tool. But there are a few exemptions. Now, for those estimated costs, if that exceeds 25% of our approved budget, that can be exempted with solid evidence to document. Okay, so we need to do something like a purchase inquiry officially. And second, if there's emergency procurement, okay, also be exempted. And also, if there's any conflict with the federal government's funding, then also be exempted. Okay, there are a few exemptions. And this act applies to all municipalities, no matter what size as well as the source of funding, except the federal government's funding. And there's no dollar threshold to exempt a purchase. That means even $1. And two categories are applicable under this Buy Ontario Act: the vehicle and capital infrastructure project. Regarding the vehicle, it only applies to the light duty vehicles, such as the SUV or the pickup truck. And the Ontario government give us very clear instruction what model that we can buy. And our current practice largely align with the requirements of the directive. So vehicle purchase, I don't see any problem. Okay, it's very minimum interruption. Regarding the capital infrastructure, well, the capital infrastructure because large value. So the Ontario government requests us to give preference to the Ontario-based supplier first when we procure the goods and services, particularly, of course, the construction project. That preference will be given to Ontario-made goods and services, followed by Canadian-made goods and services. That means both Ontario and Canadian. Apart from Ontario province, okay, Quebec, British Columbia, or Manitoba also will be given preference if that is over a certain procurement threshold. In order to support the economic development through purchasing decision. But however, we still need to maintain transparency and accountability in procurement process in order to ensure the procurement remain fair and competitive. That means we still need to follow the CFTA and CETA. CFTA is the Canadian Free Trade Agreement, and CFTA is the Canada and European countries trade agreement. We still need to follow. So what impacts to our town? Of course, cost escalation. We need to pay more because we give preference to the Ontario supplier first. So the lowest offer may not be the successful supplier if that is from other country, all right? And procurement delay because we need to have a complicated evaluation process. We need to give a different formula to give the 10% advantages, okay, to the Ontario supplier or the Canadian supplier. And more document that they need to compete. More document need to compete, and we need to evaluate all the document whether they can fulfill the Buy Ontario Act requirements. So additional compliance review we need to do and longer evaluation period. Of course, what we foresee the fewer competitive bids because we give preference to the Ontario supplier. For those people that outside of our country, they may not like to submit a bid because the chance is lower. Consequence. So what about if you don't want to follow the Buy Ontario Act? Of course, the Ontario government can hold the funding, okay? Or they will send someone to come, the auditor, to take corrective action for us. They will audit our process. And also there's a potential public reporting. That means they may promote our town of course bad image, okay? They will post it publicly that we don't follow the Buy Ontario Act. And since the Buy Ontario Act is a provisional act, okay? Well, that override the procurement bylaw. That is municipal, the procurement bylaw. So that's why no immediate update that we require. We just need to follow the Buy Ontario Act. But we don't know what happened because right now this is new to everyone and new for all municipality. That's why we need to observe 6 months, okay, and see what happened. And then we will report to the council, see whether we need to update the procurement bylaw or do some revision. But however, we need to maintain a very detailed auditor-ready procurement document in order to let the auditor from the provincial government, if they come to audit, then we need to show them. And also, we need to provide sufficient training to the staff, particularly for those informal RFQ. Informal RFQ is that we carry out by the staff, and they need to have sufficient knowledge to use the formula, how to give preference to the Ontario supplier or Canadian supplier. And finally, any question? This is very brief.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tang. Any questions from members of council? I have Councillor Hammond.
Thank you, through you. Is this forever or is there a timeline that this falls under?
At this moment, We don't have timeline. It's ongoing until the provincial government say, stop, no need to do. So what I can answer you, okay? So it's an ongoing process until, okay, from notification from provincial government.
Counselor McGuire Blaze.
Thank you through the chair. Why would we be required to have longer evaluation periods, or why would we have to delay anything when we're putting out an RFQ?
Thank you, for the mayor. Because usually, you know, our tendering opening process, okay? Once we open, we will record down the lowest offer or all the tenders, the price, okay? And then we will post it on the website within 72 hours. But that is only the base price. But with the formula, we need to adjust based on the percentage of Ontario make and Canadian make. So we will adjust, maybe give a 10% discount or 10% advantage to those supplier. They have the highest percentage of Ontario made goods and services. So we need to make the adjustment. And then after a few days, we need to post another round, the comparison of the price. That's why we need to have a longer period. It's not like before. Before, we only need to announce the price and review whether the price that is consistent, then we can make a decision. But now we need to adjust the price before we make a decision. And that's the reason why. And also, because before we do the tender, we need to do a very detailed market research. And that market research, we decide how many qualified supplier, whether there's sufficient number of qualified supply in the market. And also, as I said, there's an exemption. If the estimated cost that is over 25% of the approved budget, we can be exempted. So that's why we need to do a lot of works for the whole tendering process. That's more than before.
Thanks to the chair, but why would we be doing that? Why wouldn't we put it in the tender that they have to tell us what percentage of materials they're doing Ontario, what percentage are Canadian? Like, why are we doing it? And then why would we receive a tender and then put it out there for everybody to see, to come back and adjust their prices? That defeats the purpose of a tender.
Mr. Tang, I'm going to go to Director Rowe real quick and
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So just a point of clarification, some of these changes are the requirements of the act that we do have to walk through. Mr. Tang mentioned earlier that we are expected to be compliant, and it does take a little bit more research ahead of time as well as through the procurement process. I understand and appreciate the concern that we would post results and then potentially modify them, and that is to satisfy the Made in Ontario. You asked the question, why wouldn't we put the onus back on the proponents and the bidders to make an attestation? And that is something that is required. We would certainly need to conduct market research ahead of time to determine if we are in an exemption situation where we believe on good research and authority that we would be in a position to be in excess of 20% or 25% over and above our budget as a result of following this legislation. But aside from that, the guidance from the province is to require attestations from these bidders that what they're telling us is true in terms of the Ontario content.
Thanks to the chair. And currently, what do we think, currently, how much of what we're procuring is foreign? How much, like, do we have a percentage? Like right now, 50% is Canadian, 50% is foreign? Or do we know where we're at today as opposed to where we're trying to get?
Thank you, for the mayor. Now, the definition of Ontario made goods is 51%. That must be in Ontario. If Canadian made goods and services, that 51% of the content. That's the definition of provincial government, okay? So that's just what, when we send out the tender, we will emphasize this definition. And the percentage will be, they need to declare to us. They need to declare when they submit the tender. That's why we need to count who is the one have the highest percentage of Ontario make or Canadian make to make a decision.
Thanks. My last question through the chair is, obviously, the province has been wanting us to build faster and build more. Do we know, and I understand why they're asking us to buy Ontario, buy Canadian. My concern with it is that we're saying that it's gonna take longer, and that doesn't fit in with the buy more, like build faster. So, is there a threshold that the province would say, okay, you can't add like 30 extra days to this just looking at it? Like, you say longer evaluation period and you're talking about putting it up multiple times and coming back to it. How long are you talking? Like what is how long do you anticipate the evaluation period to be extended for?
Thank you for the mayor. Well, what I mean longer, if talking about the formula evaluation, it's a few days only. Because we can set it up in an Excel file and then calculate very easy, okay? But the time is the market research at the very beginning. That takes more time. But the evaluation is easy because once we set up the formula, we just key in the information and that will generate automatically. So what I'm talking longer is a few days, sorry.
Through the chair, Councillor McGuire Blaze brings up some good points. And I think that the reason why we need to wait the 6 months is to evaluate exactly those concerns. If there's delays, if it's causing additional costs, exactly what's happening. And then potentially council might want to advocate to the ministry for some type of policy reform based on some of these bottlenecks we could experience.
Thank you, CEO Director Rowe.
Thank you. And just to circle back to earlier points in the presentation, as of right now, as the directive has been presented to us and is written, there are no dollar thresholds and there are no exemptions for small municipalities or municipalities under a certain population. We did advocate in mid-March for these considerations to be taken into the place so that perhaps some of our larger counterparts up north could vet this process out and then it be rolled out to the smaller municipalities. And we did not see that reflected in the final directive, if that helps.
Any comments from any other members of council? Any questions? I think this is something that I'd like to hear the public's thoughts on. I haven't heard any of the public's thoughts on yet, but my question would be to them, would you be okay with the projects, coming maybe slower, or would you be okay with the projects maybe costing more money? It's interesting. So I'm not sure if our staff can put together a social media post like Essex Council receives a Buy Ontario report, because everybody's doing it, right? All 444 of us are doing it, but we should really let our community know that we are doing it. Like, I think, if there is a cost associated to it, our residents, I think, would maybe support the cost buying Ontario products. I'm not sure. They might, we don't get to ask them. We just have to do it, which is like most things with the province. But I think generally speaking, they might be okay with it. So I think we should get word out somehow. At this point, I'll look for a mover and a seconder that the Finance and Business Services report be received for information. And I want to thank you, Mr. Tang, for coming. Moved by Councillor McGuire Blaze, supported by Councillor Hammond. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to our annual countywide transportation system update. Manager Macbeth is with us this evening to present this report to us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through the chair. Just wait for the presentation to load. Okay, thank you. So I'm here to give the annual update on the countywide active transportation system known as CWATS to our mayor and town council. Next slide, please. So in 2025, we didn't do much construction in regards to CWATS. What we did complete was the County Road 50 west portion. So we had previously done the 2 kilometers from Dehinda Drive to Wright Road in 2023 and followed that with the 4 kilometers between Wright Road and County Road 41 the following year in 2024. Last year, we just completed the benches and signs. It was a requirement to try and get that infrastructure in, and we had to work with the County of Essex to install it in their right of way, choose the locations, and have that put in order to finish the last piece of our grant so we could finally submit our last report and get that done. Next slide, please. We also in 2025 completed our soft projects through our municipal partnership program, which included the bike rodeo, safety day camps, bike helmet being given away. They did the glow ride and can bike with confidence through staff training to young bikers. And that's put on through our community services division over at the rec center. Next slide, please. In 2026, our project that we're hoping to complete is the Maidstone Avenue and Talbot Street North intersection, which includes the pathway itself, including cyclist infrastructure. We're going to have signals there to indicate when the cyclists can go. We'll have special line painting put through the intersections to get movements of cyclists and pedestrians through our intersection. It is coming to council tonight after closing its tender on June 3rd for council to award it. Next slide. We also are continuing on with our engineering design this year. So we have 2 different sections being currently designed. We have the multi-use pathway from Maidstone Avenue, on Maidstone Avenue from Allen Avenue to Talbot Street North, which is part of a storm sewer design currently done by Stantec Consulting, and it's scheduled currently in the 5-year plan for 2027. It is the orange line in the map above in the aerial photography, and the section of that is below, where it is a pathway off of the roadway with a boulevard barrier. We also are doing the design for the multi-use pathway, continuing it the rest of the way on Maidstone Avenue from South Talbot Road to Allen Avenue. That is being done by R.C. Spencer Associates, as currently part of the South Talbot Maidstone intersection project. It is currently scheduled for construction in 2029 as part of the 5-year capital plan. Next slide, please. I wanted to make council aware of the Great Waterfront Trail Adventure. I don't know if you've been familiar with this or not, but it is coming to the Windsor Essex County area, and it's set. The tour is set between the dates of August 10th to the 14th. It includes various cycling loops throughout our area, and the event is being put on by the Waterfront Regeneration Trust. And it's being planned in partnership with TWEPI, which is the Tourism Windsor Essex Pelee Island. And so you can see there's some events that are being held within our town, some of the cycling routes through Harrow and Colchester, and that information has been shared with our communications manager, and we're going to have some posts, I think, out there and try and see if there's some setup that we can do to try and help promote this cyclist event that is happening in our area. Next slide, please. We also have completed so far to date as part of that Bi-National Trail program, the signage. So we had signage that came in from the Regeneration Trust to help guide the cyclists around for these different tours. So that infrastructure, the signage was put in by our operations division earlier this year. And on May 29th, we all had the Glow Ride event. And then we will have additional soft programs that will run throughout the year as well through the municipal partnership program. Next slide. Looking ahead, just to give a little bit of look ahead to council from 2027. So on this one, we're looking to do another design. Currently, we have in the 5-year capital plan a water main project scheduled to replacement from Gosfield Town Line to the eastern limits of the town of Kingsville. And we're hoping to include some detailed design to include a multi-use pathway and or paved shoulder design to be incorporated to finish off the remaining piece of paved shoulders that we don't have to bring Kingsville kind of leaves off of paved shoulders. We either continue with that or build a pathway from that limit up to County Road 34. We had R.C. Spencer Associates do a feasibility study a couple years ago, which was shared with council. This now would be getting RC Spencer is doing the water main design, and since they did this, we'd be looking to sole source to them to do the detailed design for this CWATS infrastructure and then put it in the 2028 capital construction budget for council's approval. Next slide. And the last thing I wanted to update you on is just some updates on regards to maintenance and ownership. So last month, there was a report that went to county council from the different municipalities put from the county engineer. And they finally have kind of come up with the framework for the ownership, maintenance, and replacement of the CWATS infrastructure. And I'll go through it with council through the table here. So any on-street infrastructure that is paved, a bike lane or a paved shoulder on a county road, or whether it's urban or rural, would be owned by the County of Essex, maintained by the County of Essex, and replaced by the County of Essex. And an example of this would be the pathway that we put along the paved shoulders on County Road 50, right? So in the future, when those need to be done, it would be the responsibility of the County of Essex. When you have separated infrastructure, say a multi-use path or a bike lane, once again on a county road, rural or urban, and an example of that would be the future Maidstone pathway. So we're proposing a multi-use pathway on the south side, separated from the road. So in that circumstance, the county would own it through their right-of-way portion because the county owns up to about Essex High School, and then it becomes a connecting link. But the maintenance would come to the lower tier municipality. So we, as the town of Essex, would clear the snow and do the routine maintenance, clear off stone and things like that. And then when the time comes to replace it, it would be the County of Essex's responsibility. Any active transportation on a connecting link, so the remaining portion along Maidstone Avenue, for example, when that comes into the town limits, that would be our asset to own, our asset to maintain, and our asset to replace in the future. Any active transportation on lands owned by the lower tier municipality, for example, that would be our pathway on Victoria Avenue, right? It's not part of CWATS, but if it was part of CWATS, like our own trail networks that we put in our town, Hanlon Avenue, those type of trails, once again, the ownership, maintenance, and replacement is on the town to replace. And then sidewalks on a county road or lower municipality road. So for example, that we've been replacing the sidewalks in McGregor for the past several years. It is our responsibility to, we own them, we maintain them, and we replace them. And then the last one are IRCAS trails, which are all IRCAS responsibilities, which would be any of the trails along the Greenway. So that is kind of the framework that got set and approved by county council. And that's kind of my last slide I have, and I can take any questions if you have anything.
I want to thank you, Mr. Macbeth, for adding the little map of Allen Street. I think that is helpful. It allows us to put it in perspective. I have Councillor Hammond.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. Not so much a question, but a statement that I'd like to point out. And I pointed it out after the Harold Streetscape was installed, and then now we move to the Essex Streetscape, and apparently anything we do. I'm going to point out page 8 of the report, and want you to look at the slope that on the multi-use path that is not conducive to walking. Walking on a slope like that is detrimental to anybody's walking health. Don't take my word for it. Ask any orthopedic surgeon or anybody that deals with feet or knees, or that this is detrimental. And any continued walking on a slope like this, you'll end up having to have surgery. I'm just pointing it out for the third time that these need to be changed.
Thank you, Councillor Hammond. That's good feedback. Any other member of council wishing to speak? I do have a question. So to Mr. Macbeth, or maybe even Director Gerard, I notice at times that County Road 50, I used to call the county to complain. County Road 50 along the stretch gets a lot of debris on it. So people that are, I've seen rollerbladers, cyclers. So does that mean that we will be responsible for street cleaning County Road 50 trail?
So through the chair, so based on the table, in that location, it is a county road. It's not a connecting link. So all the ownership, maintenance, and responsibilities do fall to the County of Essex. So even through Colchester Village, where we have the green sidewalks, even though it's off-road, same thing falls with the first part of the table there. That is the county's responsibility.
Okay, thank you. Good to know. Thanks for clarifying, because I don't know if their street cleaner's broken. It's probably up now. And so I'm wondering if we could get this report on our cycling website, or if we have our annual CROTS reports. I'm not sure if they're on our website. Does somebody know where they are? And I also want to thank members of our communications, Mark and Hannah, for meeting with the Share the Road group and getting a nice cycling website up. I think that's great. And Mr. Macbeth, can you please refresh my memory one more time? The little section on County Road 34, that missing link between here and Kingsville, when are we getting it done again? 2028?
Yeah, through the chair. Yes, we're looking to construction for that based on the 5-year plan is 2028, which is why I wanted to bring up the design, because in order for us to be able to do the project, we need to have that designed in advance so we could tender the works together in 2028. So.
Okay, thank you. That's definitely a wanted and missing link in the system. So it's good. I'm glad to see this. So if administration can just confirm if we have a section on our website where our annual CROTS reports are. If we don't have one, maybe we could put it on that cycling website. I think it's great. And just from a county perspective, the deputy mayor has heard me several times. There is a link on County Road 50 that's not in our municipality. We've done our share all the way up to County Road 41. And there's a little section in the town of Amherstburg. So many of our cyclists will complain, but it's a very technical and hard section in the town of Amherstburg, but the county's certainly aware of it, and we won't let our foot off the gas, the deputy mayor and I at County. Director Gerard?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Bondi. So just wanted to let you know that we do have a section on our website where we do include the CWATS transportation system updates. So it's under publications, plans, and reports currently. We'll ensure that the 2026 update gets included on our website, and we'll talk to our communications department about whether it's best suited here or on our cycling page.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Director Gerard. Can you let council know what you have decided as a group? And then parking overnight for cyclists. We did talk about that. Is there something we can do to market overnight parking? I think Director Morrisseau, you commented that we would allow overnight parking for out-of-town cyclists for people that want to cycle Essex County. Is there a way we can it's great that we have it and we've talked about it, but if we don't market it, people don't know. Director Morrisseau?
Yes, Mayor Bondi. We can certainly do that, and I will chat with communications to see if we can get something on the cycling page as well. We do have the process in place with the form working with our internal departments, so it is active.
Thank you. And it could be like Cycle Essex, park here. We could make it fun and hip and edgy. Also, I just wanted to let the greater community and members of council know that this Saturday at the Essex Home Hardware, there is a pay what you can bike giveaway for children under the age of 12. You need to bring the child with you because we need to size them for the bike. It's with the Bike Kitchen. Councilor McGuire Blaze is coming with me to help, and also the Essex OPP will be there. So I'm hoping, CEO, if we could cross promote that event to ensure that no children in our community go without a bike this summer. You know, it's pay what you can. So if you want to pay $50, you can. If you can only pay 10, pay 10. And if you can't pay anything, let us know and we'll get you covered as well. At this point, I'm looking for a mover and a seconder that the verbal report be received for information, and administration will get back to us on where we can find the CWATS reports on our agendas or on our website, sorry. Moved by Councilor McGuire Blaze, supported by Councilor Mady. Any questions? And we're also going to do some Facebook posts on Park Here and Cycle Essex. All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Macbeth. That was fun. Capital Works and Asset Management, our Maidstone Talbot intersection improvement tender. You're up for another one.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi, through the chair. So the Maidstone Talbot intersection improvement project was posted for tender on May 6th and it closed on June 3rd. There were 8 bidders in a very competitive tender where the lowest 4 were very close in the bidding process. But the lowest tender ultimately what came from Demore Construction Limited. As part of this project, we are looking to improve right-hand turn lanes on Talbot Street North to Maidstone Avenue and both the north and south directions as over the lands that we acquired back in 2024. We are also adding left-hand turn lanes onto Maidstone Avenue on both the east and west lanes to be able to turn onto Talbot Street North. We are also looking to start the first part of the multi-use pathway in the main intersections, about 160 meters worth of that trail. And then we have new traffic signals as well as cyclist infrastructure that we're looking to put in to the infrastructure to incorporate the pathway going through it. We have improved street lighting within the intersection improvement area, directly in the intersection improvement area. And we are also doing a water main on Maidstone Avenue from Bell Avenue to Talbot Street North. And we're also doing new asphalt pavement on Maidstone Avenue from Bell Avenue to the eastern limits of the construction project. And as part of the project, we're also doing storm sewers in a trail. That was designed by Stantec Consulting in the same area. It was incorporated into RC Spencer's tender. Originally, we were not planning to do the storm sewer, but as Stantec finished the design, it became apparent that the storm sewer had to be upgraded with the storm sewer project that they're designing in the whole area there, around there. And there was also another piece of pipe that was cracked and damaged and need to be replaced. And as part of that, then we've also have to change the sidewalk on the south side of Maidstone Avenue. So those were not originally expected in the construction tender when we did budget, but we did incorporate those into the design once it became aware that we needed to update that infrastructure. We also are, as part of this contract, administration is recommending provisional items, which includes the video detection system, additional sub-excavation and granular base, third-party infrastructure by MNSI, in which case they'll be paying for their infrastructure. We're just putting it in and to incorporate it, similar to what we have done in the Essex Streetscape project. So that way they aren't coming in afterwards to rip up our new area when they want to service the area. And we also are looking to extend the multi-use pathway. So we had put in a provisional section to take the trail from the intersection up to the sidewalk that's at Bell Avenue. It's an additional 160 meters, I believe, allowing for 300 total meters of trail for this project. We are recommending also awarding the on-site and contract administrative services to RC Spencer Associates, who is the designing and engineering consultant for this project. And between the advanced utility works, the traffic infrastructure, the required geotechnical testing required during construction, the tender pricing from Demore, and RC Spencer's fees and services, you know, this is expected to come in over budget, and we are requesting additional funding in the amount of $803,003.31 based on the funding that is outlined in the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Macbeth. Questions, comments from members of council? Deputy Mayor Shepherd.
Thank you, through the mayor. More of a comment than anything. It's nice to see that we had 8 bidders at the sign of the time, so everybody's looking for work. So hopefully we get the benefit of that. So for that, I think it's great, and I think it's coming. The 800,000.
I didn't get that.
Oops. See. Yeah, it was a bit. I'm glad you explained it. It helped out a lot, so I'll be supporting it.
Councilor McGuire Blaze.
Thanks, through the chair. Just wondering if you could explain the video detection system. What is that, and just explain it for us, please.
Sure, through the chair. So normally on all of our intersections right now, we have what we call loop detection. Basically, the vehicle rolls up, goes over the detection system, and it makes the lights change, right? When you don't have time signals and things like that. What this allows us to do is it actually uses video cameras, and the cameras go and they will pick up the cars, it'll pick up the storage, and later on we can use this information as well to determine whether or not we need to make timing adjustments. So it's just modern technology that we have not been doing in any of our other previous intersections, and we just kind of really need to get with the times, and that's why we're recommending doing this with the other intersections that we have coming. For example, the one at South Talbot and Maidstone, that one's going to be a county-owned infrastructure, but they're going to be putting that in too. So it's a similar project because I know there's been talks about improvements at the Gosfield Town Line and Talbot Street North. We'd be looking to do that same infrastructure. So this is a good program for us to put it in on this one, make sure it's working for us well, and then it'll be something that we do on any type of traffic infrastructure likely in the future. Thank you.
Thanks. Just further for that, for my information, and I'm sure the public as well, will we be monitoring, like, will it be like red light traffic? Will we be monitored, like, will it take photos and we can send tickets to people? Is that what we're looking to do? How closely is it monitored? And what is the cost difference between the video monitoring system and the motion detection system?
So through the chair. So no, it's not being used as a red light camera and it's not being monitored by staff. It would be information that we could pull at a later date if we needed to for based on traffic movements and things along those lines. In regards to pricing, I don't have the tender right in front of me, but overall, it's probably double the price, right? Because the detection itself, we buy the materials ourselves and supply it through the County of Essex. I think the cost of it was about roughly $30,000, and then it's about $20,000 to install with all the conduit and everything else that has to go with it. Where the loop detection, I think, is in the tender was around $20,000 as well. So it's about double the price or a little bit more, but it will give us better information and kind of bring us in with the times.
Counselor Garen.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It's a much improved intersection. I'm going to support it. I do have some concerns with some of it. With the left turn lights, are you saying that going north and south or east and west will have advanced screens both in all directions?
So through the chair. So because the town has been used to it, I believe the timing that we asked for the contractor to put, or the consultant to put in, was to have some of the advanced lefts coming off of Talbot Street, because as you know, currently we have the one only for the northbound traffic, which doesn't meet the current Rail Ontario regulations. But knowing that people are going to be able to make these movements easier, we are incorporating that into those. It's the other lanes, it's just a little left-hand turn lanes on Maidstone for the other section. Like, there's currently no left-hand turn lane, so that it will allow for vehicle storage and movements, and it'll allow for better traffic flow. And a lot of this is due to the increased growth from development in the area.
To the mayor further. So they're not going to be true advanced screens in all directions. There won't be flashing greens in all directions.
Correct. It'll be left-hand turn signals shown, and it's only planned for an advance on Talbot Street North due to the traffic there. Ultimately, we'd have the ability to relook at how traffic movement is coming, especially since if we go with the camera detection systems, and we could do additional studies if we had to later on and adjust the timing of the signals or put advances in if we need to.
Further through the mayor. Okay, so they will have the capability, if we monitor and we feel the need to, they'll have the capability to have advanced screens all directions.
Through the chair, yes.
So through the mayor, further that, detour plans, once construction starts, I'm sure you'll be meeting with the contractor on that. My biggest concern with, the work has to get done, but I'm seeing in the report at some time at the whole intersection may be closed. I'm really interested in learning more about the detour plans. I know when we did some work and we were detouring them around before, it was a nightmare down when we were doing the intersection down by Reed's. I know it's going to be difficult. It's going to be timely, a lengthy project, but I'm hoping that we have a good detour plan in place. Other concerns I have is the right merge lane going north, turning right from Talbot on to Maidstone. With the do not block area in front of Tim Hortons, I see a real nightmare there. What we're going to be encouraging cars doing now, they're not going to go straight through and make a right-hand turn past Maidstone into Tim Hortons. They're going to take that detoured right, and the way we have that done, they're just going to stop there and wait till they can go straight through to go across into the Tim Hortons. So I see an issue there. I just see that right turn lane, which is supposed to be to keep traffic moving, coming to just a stop, because people, I feel, are going to, in most cases, if they're wanting to go to Tim Hortons, instead of going straight through the light and making the right in front of the Circle K, they're going to just stop there and wait till they can go straight through. So I have some concerns with some of the design work. I know it's too late now to probably make any modifications, but that's one of them. The other concern I have is the left turn into Circle K off of Talbot Street. There's no joining intersection to make left or right. So basically cars come through the intersection and they stop. And they've got to wait till the cars turn left going into town or go straight through before they make their turn. So backed up traffic in there as well is my concerns. Still a tough intersection to work with. I like this plan. I think it will be 90% of what we want it to be, but I do see some concerns.
Counselor Hammond.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. When is this project slated to start approximately?
So through the chair, if awarded at council tonight, we're hoping that construction can begin as early as early July, probably after the Fun Fest weekend preferably. So it's not going to affect anybody coming into our nice festival that we have here, but it will depend on getting the contract awarded, getting in locates and things along those lines, and making sure that the contractor is available that wins it, right? Like we haven't had those conversations because we haven't awarded it to them yet. But the expectation is that we would try and get them in July, and it's about 5 months worth of construction. So it would be completed sometime in December.
So there's no way to avoid any type of any part of the school year?
So through the chair, no, unfortunately, it's not a project that we can get completed over the summertime. It will definitely impact it, but it's probably easier for it to finish this school year and impact the start to get people used to the movements than it would be to try and do it mid-school year. So timing, I think, works out better actually.
Okay, one more, 800,000, that's a significant overage on a $3 million project. Is there any way to defer this to next year's budget rather than add it to this year's budget?
CAO.
Through the chair, that is not something I would recommend for a variety of reasons. One being the design has already been completed on this intersection. We've garnered significant interest in the community with 8 bids. So there are local suppliers depending on this work. I would actually have to work with our manager, Jackson Tang, to see if we'd be exposed to some legal risk, given how far we are along right now. Ultimately, council can deny it, but we have to be willing to take the risk that when we do post the tender next year, prices will likely be escalated. We may not garner the competition we did with this submission, and funding sources will remain in a similar state.
Thank you. And isn't this one of our projects that we're applying for the DC grant?
Through the chair, yes, a portion of it is not the entire scope, though.
Okay. Okay, thank you. At this point, I'll look for a mover and a seconder that council award the Maidstone Talbot intersection improvement to Demore Construction in the amount of $3.4 million, including non-refundable harmonized HST, moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Verbeek, and that council approved the additional funding of $800,000 from the sources listed in the agenda. I do have a question myself. How long? Okay, never mind. I wrote it down. You already answered it. And yeah, and I think it's great. The bus companies will have time to plan for back to school. And this has been an intersection that I've heard complaints for probably since I've been on council. It was like Arthur, Gosfield, Maidstone, and I don't hear any complaints about Arthur, Gosfield, Maidstone now. Maybe others do, but it's good. So it'll be a short-term pain for long-term gain. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Hammond is opposed, and that is carried. Moving on to the much anticipated Nottingham Safety Review. We have Director Gerard here for questions. I'll look for a mover and a seconder to get it on the table. That the operations report be received, moved by Councillor Mady, supported by Councillor Allard. Any questions from members of council? Councillor Mady.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Yeah, I think this is good and it's needed. I've noticed in the past few months, I've gotten more complaints about speeding on the beach roads than I have in the first 3 years of my term. And when I've been asking, it's some of the residents, it might be a little bit of a perceived speeding. It might also be the fact that we're putting up new speeding sign, like new speed limit signs, where people are recognizing that it's 50 kilometers an hour, and some of the people that are coming in from other areas are used to doing 10 over, and on a beach road that's so narrow, I'm wondering if that's where some of these complaints are coming from. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the information that comes back from the study, because that's a nice narrow beach road. It's got a lot of traffic on it. It's got stop signs on it. I think it's going to give us a whole bunch of information here.
So I think Counselor Meady had a question in there and the question is let me rephrase it. Is it typical for us to have posted speed limits on our beach roads? Or is that something new we're doing?
Through the chair, so in a built-up area where the speed is not posted, it's 50 kilometers an hour. Some of the beach roads have signs and some of them don't, especially the ones that are not 50. So if they're not 50, they must be posted. So there are some that have the posted speed limit on them and some that don't.
Okay, Counselor Hammond.
Yeah, I think what Counselor Meady's getting to is that he would like to see the 50-kilometer-per-hour signs removed from most beach roads, because it doesn't need to be posted, and it doesn't give the people the incentive to travel 50 down a road that's not made for 50.
Okay, can be something our administration can talk about. I don't particularly know if there's a lot of them out there, but well, we can talk about that. I know Counselor Meady wants to talk to administration about a potential notice of motion regarding that. I think it's important to note that this particular beach here does have a commercial business at the end. So that's why we do get a lot of people from out of town here that don't live here traveling fast to get to the Progies because they're amazing. So we just want to make sure that when people are going to places that they're traveling an appropriate speed and watching out for children. So I also want to just give accolades to administration. This report wasn't a beefy report, but it was a really good communication tool to council that you heard our comments during budget and you brought back something so that we could discuss and know where we are and get more information when it's warranted. So we do have a mover and a seconder on. Any other comments from members of council? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried unanimously. 2025 Treasurer Statement on development charges, and we'll go to Director Rowe. There's a few changes here.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. There are some recent changes, legislative changes, which is why you're seeing the report tonight. They are noted in the report, but I will briefly go over them. So following the enactment of Bill 60, we are now required to present the Treasurer's Statement to Council before June 30th. And then, whereas in the past, we brought it when we were able, following the financial statement completion. And then the other item that is different now is that we are required to submit the statement to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing by July 15th. Previously, we provided it upon request. The content of the report itself is very similar to what you would have received in January, which was the 2024 statement. And a lot of the fluctuations that you're seeing are a function of timing or one-off items. I'm happy to take any questions on the changes themselves, but aside from the legislative changes, this statement should look very similar to the one that you had received in January.
Thank you, Director Rowe. And back when we received the one before, I don't think it was posted anywhere on our website, but this one now will be posted on our website.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, previously it was made public through the agenda, and we will be posting this to the website.
Okay, thank you. Since we have to post this one, can we please post the other one, please? Okay, thank you. Questions, comments from members of council this evening? At this point, I'll look for a mover and a seconder that the corporate services report be received and that council approve the annual treasurer's statement for development charges and parkland reserve, and that council direct the treasurer to give a copy of the statement to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing and make the statement available to the public upon our request. Councilor Verbeek, Councilor McGuire-Blaise, any other questions? All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Parks and Facilities, our Community Services Master Plan Update. Director Morissette, Deputy CAO.
Thank you, Mayor Bonnie. So I'm here today to speak to the Community Services Master Plan. So the master plan was approved by council in late 2023, and administration has been working off of the plan over the past few years. The report is to provide an update where we are with the plan. So a comprehensive report is attached to the agenda, but a few of the key highlighted items over the past few years are right here. So continued work on the Essex Sports Park. So we wanted to make sure that the plans are ready for shovel in the ground in case there was funding that came out. So we have applied for some of those funds, one of which was successful and a couple more that were not. So some of the ongoing work that we have right now is is irrigation, top dressing, overseeding, and overcoming the grass issues that we've encountered as related to the project. But if you look at it recently, it's looking pretty good. We've also got funding arrangements near completion for the amphitheater at Heritage Park. So that's included in the 2026 budget. Replacement of the Sadler's Park Pavilion, which is included in the 2026 budget. Replacement of the Harrow multi-use courts to be located at the Harrow Soccer Complex, which is included in the 2026 budget. And this was an outcome for the Harrow Fairgrounds Master Plan, which is going to be coming back to council very shortly. One other item as part of the Harrow Fairgrounds Master Plan is a way to get a dog park in Harrow, which is something that we've been hearing quite a bit about from the local community. And we do have a plan as part of that open house where repurposing one of the existing unused baseball diamonds is probably the method that administration is going to recommend to council. So that'll be coming back for council's review in the coming months. A generator was added to the Harrow and Colchester South Community Center in 2026 and a generator at the Essex Center Sports Complex in 2025, and these support emergency management for the town of Essex. Essex Town Center Park was approved in the 2026 budget. We installed accessible lifts at the Essex Recreation Complex in early 2026. We did receive grant funding for that as well. Replacement of the Coan Park Playground in 2025 with a partnership with the town of Amherstburg. Lighting at the Essex Center Sports Complex was changed from T8s to LEDs, which significantly reduces electricity consumption. The Harrow Arena was connected to the building automation system in 2025. Added pathway connecting Pereira Drive to Pollard Park in 2024. A corporate tree inventory was created in 2025 and utilized, and this is utilized for future management of trees as a town asset. A sun sail was added to the McGregor Community Park in 2024. And there were quite a few other initiatives and items that were taken care of as well. But those are some of the capital highlights. There were policy updates and other items. And the comprehensive report is part of the agenda. And I am here for any questions.
Thank you, Director Morrisseau. We are a small municipality and we run very lean, but we are mighty in our parks department. That's a lot of accomplishments. Councilor Verbeek.
Thanks, through you, Madam Mayor. Ditto to that comment. Really impressive report here. Director Morissette, just my first question is about the Sadler's Pavilion. I guess it's a couple of parts open for discussion. When is the work going to be done is one. And I was recently on a prayer walk picnic with a large group of parishioners there. And so there was a lot of conversation around the old pavilion, whether or not some or any of it would be left intact. And some of the suggestions that were kicked around were leaving the pavement for skippers and, chalk projects and games. And so I wondered if that had been given consideration and when the work would begin. And I have a follow-up.
Through the mayor, so the pavilion project, it doesn't have a date set for construction yet. It's almost tender ready, so we are expecting that to go out in the next few weeks. And then we'll have a better idea of what's going to happen in terms of build times and all that stuff. So one thing about the existing pavilion is it is not in good condition to keep it. The reason why we're redoing this and relocating the pavilion to a central area in the park is because we want it on higher ground. Right now it sits in a very low spot. It's hidden away. So from a community planning through environmental design principle, where we're looking at the safety of our parks, we definitely don't want it behind in a hidden area. And that's one of the problems that we're having now. So sometimes we'll see vandalism and ongoing activities that probably should not be happening in our parks. So that's why we're trying to relocate it in a more central area. But in terms of the concrete pad, that is something we can look at. We would want to, if we are going to keep it, we would want to add some sort of drainage or look at how we can accomplish that, because it does sit in a big puddle of water if there is rainfall. So we don't want that standing water, which is part of the reason that the deterioration for the existing pavilion, where the base posts are rotting out.
Okay, thank you. Just a little further to that. Yeah, it looked like the pavilion would have to go, but there was discussion, like I say, about various ways the pad could be used. And if for some reason it couldn't, because it is off in a low-lying area, and you're right, it's good that we're gonna move that into a more central area for safety reasons, right? But because it is off to the side and it is in such a low-lying area, it would also serve perfectly for a naturalized area, a pollinator garden too. Something else to keep in mind when that project begins.
Okay, Counselor Meady?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. So yeah, you're doing great work. I like all the achievements that we're making. I would like to maybe be able to get a pavilion on the agenda one day out in the Colchester Park. I know the Kinsmen were trying to do that for a while, and the funding never worked out. I'd like to see us maybe take up some slack on that. And with the community walkabout here that's going to be happening at the harbor, I think this might give us another good chance to talk about some of the lighting concerns down there, maybe what we can do with it, what we can add, a couple areas that we can tweak down there. But great report, and thank you very much.
Counselor McGuire, please.
Thanks to the chair. I just wanted to say, outstanding work. Like if anybody read this, there are 111 points that you are working on, and there are a lot that are already at 100% complete. So we've done a lot in a little bit of time. I do want to point out number 49, which is explore opportunities to implement naturalized pockets within passive parkland. The reason why I want to talk about this is we've just recently this year, 2026, have applied this to the South Talbot new walkway that was put in by the MTO when we finished the Highway 3. And I want to be clear that I support naturalized areas. I think they provide environmental benefits. They can create habitats. They reduce maintenance requirements in appropriate locations. I also appreciate the additional information provided by administration through email regarding the history of this project, the original intent for the corridor, and the operational pressures currently facing the Park and Facilities Division, which is, we can see you guys are doing a lot of work, and we've added a lot of things. So it makes sense. However, I believe that location matters, and I believe public expectations matter. The trees and shrubs along this corridor that were planted approximately 4 or 5 years ago. During this time, the area was actively maintained, with the town monitoring vegetation, establishment, drainage, and pathways. And as a result, the residents became accustomed to a certain appearance and level of service. This year, that changed significantly without any consultation. As a result, many residents are not viewing this as a naturalization project. They are viewing it as a reduction in maintenance and a decrease in service levels. The grass has grown to a point where much of the landscaping that was planted several years ago is no longer visible, and many residents feel the area appears unmanaged rather than intentionally designed. So I understand that the long-term vision is to introduce additional native plants and species. In fact, that future vision is much closer to my own understanding of naturalization. When I think of a naturalized area, I think of native grasses, wildflowers, pollinator habitats, and intentionally designed spaces that are environmentally beneficial while remaining visually appealing. My concern is not with the long-term vision, it's with right now, it's with the current state. I appreciate administration sharing that they received both positive and negative feedback regarding the initiative. But when I put it out there to the community, I received almost all negative feedback regarding this area. So I do see the need for naturalized areas. I know they exist in other communities along pathways, along roads. I just think that we need to have a conversation about it with our residents before we just put it on them. So when the time is right, through you, Madam Mayor, I would like to put a notice of motion through that we hire or we approve 10 hours of overtime work per week. And I understand that administration has told us they need 20 to have it maintained the way that it was for the last 4 years. I don't think it needs to be maintained 100% as the last 4 years. It just needs to be better than what it is. So bi-weekly mowing would be sufficient enough. So my ask is for the next 4 months, we take from the wage stabilization fund to approve overtime hours, 10 hours a week. And administration comes back to us at budget time with a proposal so we can see the cost and the residents can have a say in do they want that as a natural space or not. And then I'm going to ask our administration to give us a definition of a naturalized space, because my definition is what I just read, and what is happening on South Talbot is not what I just read. What's happening on South Talbot is we are just not mowing the lawn. And I believe we're not mowing the lawn because we don't have the budget, because there's no money, there's no time for the Parks and Rec, which is understandable because as you can see, there's 111 points there that they're trying to get through. So I understand it. And I am going to ask that of council tonight. I would like to make that notice of motion when the time is right. And our administration is just chatting over here. But I believe we can support environmental stewardship while also maintaining the appearance, especially when we have a decrease in level of service, which is what our residents are feeling at this point.
So I'm going to go to our CEO first.
Through the chair, so I would recommend that a report come forward. I think it's important that council understands the level of service that will accompany 10 hours that's possible, as well as the financial impact. We don't have those numbers present right now. So it would have to come in the form of a report, or else council is not aware of what they're actually approving. And then I would request, based on feedback I just received from the clerk, that we get the finalized notice of motion in writing so that we can debate for the next meeting of council.
I'm going to go to Councilor McGuire Blaze, and then I'll go to Director Malindruklo.
So through the chair, the reason I didn't ask for a report is because a report will take weeks. And by the time we get the report, it'll be the end of the summer. And the residents will have spent the entire summer upset about the tall grass and the naturalized area that is just overgrown grass.
Okay, so just to relate, we did have a public meeting. Councilor Mady brought forward a motion about issues and concerns at Colchester Harbor with a lack of staff. And it's very timely that we needed more staff at the Colchester Harbor, but we had to go through the same process with a notice of motion to get costs to get a report. So I understand that it's timely. We were timely too when we had the meeting with residents at Colchester Harbor. So Councilor Mady came, he didn't get additional staff. We had to ask for a report. So there's already lots of competing priorities. I'm going to go to Director Malindruklo.
So through the chair, I just want to remind council that our procedural bylaw requires that notices of motion be passed by the clerk prior to a meeting. Because it was not passed by the clerk prior to the meeting, I can't accept it as a notice of motion. But in front of you, you have a report and then you have a recommended action. So the recommended action is that the report be received. If a counselor wants to amend that recommended action, maybe build something into that motion, you can do that, but we can't hear it as a notice of motion. In order for it to be a notice of motion, I'll have to receive that notice of motion prior to the next meeting, where we can present it at the next meeting and then deliberate at the meeting following that.
Councilor McGuire Blaze.
Okay, so can I amend it to ask for the lawn to be maintained until a report can be brought forward to council?
Through the chair, there is a financial impact accompanied with that hasn't been calculated at this point. So if council wants to, I could try to have our director crunch some numbers. In the meantime, we don't have that information available right now. So that really is why the procedural is set up, so that we are able to have time in between to give you the proper information. We don't have it on hand.
Through the chair, with all due respect, I've had multiple conversations, multiple emails back and forth. You knew what I was asking. You told me it was 21 hours. I'm not asking for 21 hours. I'm asking for 10. So the financial impact should be known. It's 21 hours and I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for 10.
Through the chair, I agree. Wording was provided that a report be drafted.
Okay, so I have a lineup. Counselor Hammond, Counselor Verbeek, Counselor Guerin.
Thank you, and through you, and I just wanted to make this comment, after receiving a call from Councilor McGuire Blaze today with her concerns and stuff like that. I did drive down the aforementioned area, and quite frankly, I think it's quite appealing, and I don't see what the complaints are about, but I live on the other side of number 3, and we're used to having more nature around us and stuff like that. And Essex is more accustomed to manicured lawns and stuff like that. At the same time, with the number 3 in the background, I think it's quite appropriate, and I don't think we should be spending any more money on manicuring it, not taxpayers' money. If so, then it should be the taxpayers that make that decision.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Hammond. I have Counselor Verbeek, then Counselor Guerin.
Okay, hi, through the mayor. I too have been by there very often recently, and on the Grey Walk, when I was walking with a large group of people doing that 5 kilometer, we talked about that piece as we walked along beside it. I too don't find it, I've not had or heard one complaint, but I have heard positive comments that were the way it looks and that we're moving forward with this. I did not know that we would be pushed to some vote today to spend a bunch of extra money when I thought our comments were going to be like, bravo on the work yous are doing. And I understand you're stretched. And I did not know we'd be calling upon our staff to do more work and, spend more money on the spot like this, because I wouldn't want to make a decision like that tonight until we have a report that tells us how is this going to affect our efforts to create this naturalized. We aren't exactly where we want to be. We're creating this. It doesn't happen overnight. And now we're in next steps of letting it grow and seed itself. So how, if we just change course right now that we've been on and mow it down, will it affect the growth of this naturalized area and where it's headed to? Also, I mean, I would have, if I'd known we were going to have this discussion, I would have brought some facts and stats in front of me, but doing that naturalized area along number 3 highway is very environmentally wise. Because of the fumes, it cleans the air and of course helps with the drainage issues. I'm not good. I can't cite them offhand, but I do know that growing naturalized areas around highways that create great amounts of pollution is ideal. So I didn't realize we were going to be called to this question tonight, but I would like to see how it's going to affect our 4 years of effort in building a beautiful naturalized area.
Okay, CAO Drusevich.
Through the chair, so just to try to provide a path forward that I believe aligns with what I'm hearing here. So our clerk has stated that if an amendment is made, then basically you would bypass the presentment period. So rather than it being a month, it would be 2 weeks. 2 weeks would be sufficient for us to gather the information and circulate it. So it'd be a 2-week period rather than a 4-week period. So that's what we're really asking for at the end of the day.
So I'm just trying to understand an amendment to. Okay, I'll go to Counselor Guerin.
Thank you through the mayor. I'm not going to get into whether naturalization in that area is needed or not. I haven't received a lot of complaints about it at all. So what I think the frustration's coming from is this is something we were maintaining. It was in our operating budgets last year. In 2026's budget discussions, there was probably no discussion of what was going to be taken out or if it was going to be kept in. So I think that's where some of the frustration is coming from. I guess the concern I would have is if from year to year, the director can just determine which level of services we're going to cut out and which ones we're not going to cut out, where would that stop? Would we just stop cutting half of Sadler's Pond because we just feel like we can't afford to anymore? That stuff has to come back to council. If it's a major change and it's something that we've been maintaining, was it taking out, like when did we stop cutting it? And was it completely taken out of the 2026 budget?
Through the mayor. So I will definitely take responsibility for that to council. I was under the impression as part of the project that it was presented that it was eventually going to become a naturalized area. The actual project plans show that it's a natural seed mix that was planted in the area for this purpose. So administration was monitoring and maintaining the property, looking at the plants. So we're monitoring. So because tall grasses can choke out smaller plants. So we wanted the plants to establish themselves, be able to monitor that maintenance period. And then it was time to start letting it grow. So like I said, that was something that I probably should have better communicated to council. I was under the impression that that was already understood, but it's clear that that was not the case. But that is what the project was planned for. And that's what the design plans have.
Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Thank you. Through the mayor. So I was going to say almost exactly what Joe said. So thanks, Joe, for that. And I was one of the things I looked at. So when I saw the reduction in service, how I viewed it. And then last year when we approved a tree nursery, we had enough people to look after that, but then we're going to cut that out. Just seemed to me like that it didn't align. That explanation certainly helps. But we definitely, that was at least as far as I know, that was never presented to us that this was going to be the case. So that's why we're here and having the discussion tonight. So I think the 2 weeks, I could support the 2 weeks to get a report on. I think that gives enough time for it, and then we can at least have a discussion on the cost. And I too, I have had some negative comments come to me over the last few weeks. So it's not all roses. There's some weeds in there too.
Okay, so I think we have a plan we can defer this for 2 weeks and come back with more financial information so we can keep it on our agenda. Okay, Councilor Beek.
Through the mayor, can we have more than just financial implications? As the director said, this was the time to allow the growing to start. There's a lot more than just, unsightly tall weeds. Those were naturalized seeds that may need to go to seed before they're mowed, or if they're mowed. I'm just wondering, can we get more than the financial implications?
Yes, I think they're hearing this entire conversation and anything that's said. And if any council members have anything else to add, I came back from Edmonton for a conference, and it's like how it is there everywhere. So I understand that it is a big change for residents in Essex. I have got 2 official complaints, and this is one of the reasons why when I was on council the first term, I actually brought up the council members at essex.ca email so that residents can email all of us so that we all are getting the same amount of complaints. I do encourage residents, if you are complaining about something, to email all of us so we can all sit here and say, we've had 5 complaints or we've had 15 complaints. We are a little off topic. I do want to kind of go back to the master plan, but we are going to table it to get financial information and anything else. I would like to see some pretty wildflowers in there too. I think it can only improve. So why don't I get a motion to, or is there anything else we want to talk about other than this? I do want to say a couple things. I'm wondering if we can get some word out on the Essex Town Center Park on our socials somehow, when it comes. I'm getting a lot of questions about when is it coming in that area. The Harrow Fair Arch, Director Morrissoud, I'm wondering if you can answer that publicly. And then I do think our staff came up with a really good out-of-the-box idea for dog poop and the little signs that really helped. I'm hearing positive feedback on that. So Director Morrissoud, I'm back to the Parks and Rec report. The Harrow Fair Arch, if you could update members of council when that's coming back, please.
Through the mayor, So I've been informed that the design plans for that were just approved very recently. So we are anticipating that it would be in the month of July that it should be fully installed prior to the Harrow Fair. So should look great for then. And in terms of Essex Town Center Park, the tender closes this upcoming Wednesday. So we'll have some design plans for evaluation and the public to be voting on very shortly.
Oh, that's great news. Thank you. So like at this point, look for a motion that we defer the report until the July 6th council meeting to come back with financials and more information. Moved by Councillor McGuire Blaze, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. Any other questions on that? All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Hammond and Councillor Meady. Thank you. That is carried. Office of the CAO, declaration and disposition of surplus property at Gastow Office, 2610 County Road 12. CAO Drusevich.
Thank you, through the chair. So in front of council tonight is a bylaw for 2 readings. The third reading would be scheduled July 20th after we've had a chance to issue our publications in the local newspapers. And this is all a part of the Town Hall Expansion Business Plan. And so when the initial report was presented to council in 2023 on the Town Hall concept, part of it was that we would dispose of this property once consolidation could take place. We are getting close to that point. So we anticipate that in September, we will have the Gastow staff moving over to the new and improved town hall. And at that point, the building will become vacant. And the plan would be to use our rostered real estate agent. We did put a tender out to seek real estate services, and we would use that realtor to help us market and sell this property. Important to note within the report, and I did get verification from the planning department today that there was a typo in the planning use. And so I want to clarify that it is not I 1.1, it is actually zoned I.2. And so what this is it is similar to what was stated in the report, but I'll make sure that when the third reading comes back that there's a clarification in the report. Major community serving institutional uses. This includes arenas, daycares, places of entertainment and recreation, schools, churches, facilities for nonprofits or charitable organizations where located in a building and owned by and maintained by a public authority. So this is not to say that a purchaser could come forward. They could request a zoning bylaw amendment. They would have to prove that it aligns with all of the policies at hand, such as provincial planning and our own planning policies. So right now, for council's information, that those lands are designated in our hamlet under the current official plan. And it would, through site-specific zoning, allow uses such as single detached dwellings. It would allow townhomes, residential care facilities, home occupations, tourist accommodations, recreational uses, mixed uses such as commercial and residential, small-scale commercial, business and professional offices, and dry and light industrial uses. The draft official plan proposes to largely maintain this designation. But again, any change in use that is not aligned with the current zoning would have to come to council for approval, and they would have to prove that they can become aligned with all of our policies. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So it's currently it's zones, so you can't, all those things you just talked about, it would have to be rezoned to have that. Was there any consideration given to the fact that we should rezone it in advance of that so we can get the most bang for our buck for that property?
Through the chair, no, we did not have those conversations, but what I could do in the meantime until July 20th is consult with our realtor to determine if that would make it more enticing of a listing.
So would you need a motion or something so we could get a report back letting us know where our best bang was on that property?
Through the chair, no, I can just accompany that with the third reading.
Any other members of council? Councilor Verbeek?
Through the mayor, just to follow up on what the deputy mayor just brought up, the potential for us to rezone before putting it out. Didn't you just say the zoning that's in place right now is what most lines up with our official plan for that hamlet?
Through the chair, unfortunately, I don't have a key player here. Director Chadwick is gone. Some of these questions I will have to take back and provide to council. That is why we left an extended period in between the readings in order to be able to provide some comments on it. What I was told by the planning department was that is how it is currently zoned, but our policies would allow a change in zoning. And those changes would permit the potential for single detached dwellings. It's just typically, we put the property owner, future property owner through that process. So I'd have to investigate and bring back to council on the 20th what it would look like for the municipality to do that.
Okay, looking for a mover and a seconder that the office of the CAO report be received and that bylaw 2547 be read a first, second time and provisionally adopted on June 15th. And that council authorizes the town's retained real estate broker to list the property at sale at fair market value. And that council direct administration to enter into an agreement of purchase for the sale of property conditional on council approval of the terms and agreement of purchase. And that the mayor and clerk are authorized to do all things to sign all documents. Councilor Verbeek. Councilor McGuire Blaze. I do have a question myself. If there is a purchaser, if we have multiple offers, is there any, does it come back to council? Do we get to pick? And also, if somebody wants to build A and somebody else wants to build B and we like B better, but it's 30,000 less, do we have to go with A? Or what? Yeah.
Through the chair, so that information would come back to council in a closed session, and it would be up to council to decide the direction of that building, and all options would be presented before we enter into any agreement.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Deputy Mayor?
So by passing this right now, we're not gonna, it won't affect it if we decided to rezone it or anything, that we're not entering into something that we can undo. Okay, thank you.
Okay, all in favor? And that is carried. I think that is a really exciting move to have all of our staff come over here to Town Hall. The Skeets Drain Abandonment, looking for a mover and a seconder that the following 3 members of the Drainage Board, Jonathan, Tiffany, and Dan, be appointed to sit on the Court of Revision. And in that such the Court of Revision to be scheduled as soon as the date determined by the town's Drainage Department be read first, second time and provisionally adopted on June 15th. Moved by Councilor Hammond, Councilor Mady. Any questions? All in favor? I thank our Drainage Department for moving that one along fast. Office of the CAO, oh, we did that one. Woohoo! We have no youth members here tonight. We have our County Council update, looking for a mover and a seconder that we receive the County Council update 12.1. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councilor Verbeek, any questions? All in favor? It's carried unanimously. We'll receive the correspondence listed in agenda item 13 all at once, looking for a mover and a seconder that we receive it, and then members of council can pull out some. Councilor McGuire Blaze, Councilor Allard, all in favor? That's carried. Any members of council wish to pull out any items of correspondence? Councilor Verbeek.
Through the mayor, I was just looking at the 2 that had to do with healthcare funding. So 13.1.4 from the County of Prince Edwards are asking for support for sustainable funding to the public health unit. It just speaks of the shortfalls in the funding since 2018 and that the health unit's role in prevention and diversion from hospitals and in education have been deeply affected by the shortfall in funding, and they're just asking that we support their request. Do you want me to go on with the second one, or shall we vote on this one? It's very similar, and it's from Northeastern Manitoulin and the islands. And they just talk about how research unequivocally identifies that the Ontario hospitals are underfunded, with, in some areas, 44-hour waits in ERs, and they are just asking for an increase in public health spending.
Okay, so
And I
that
hope
is
we can support that request.
moved by, can we do both at the same time, Director? Okay. Moved by Councilor Verbeek that we pull out those 2, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. Any questions, comments? Can we send the one with the sustainable funding for public health units to Dr. Ken Blanchette as well, to know that we are supporting our health unit? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Any other members of council wish to pull out any items of correspondence? Councillor McGuire, please.
Thank you, through the chair. I'd like to pull out 13.1.6 through the Clearview Township regarding vacant commercial storefront tax. Basically, they're asking that the provincial government allow municipalities to institute a vacant commercial storefront tax. So for any storefronts that are vacant, we could impose an additional tax on them to try to help them fill it.
Okay, moved by Councillor McGuire Blaze, supported by Councillor Verbeek, that the vacant commercial storefront tax be pulled out and supported. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Hammond and Deputy Mayor Shepley. That is carried though. Any other items of correspondence to be pulled out? I do have a couple myself. I will start with the I'll start with the diversion report, the Essex Windsor Solid Waste Authority residential waste diversion report. It is 13.1.12.2. On page 2 of this report, the Essex Windsor Solid Waste Authority actually outlines some of their concerns that they have with the lack of information from Circular Materials. So I took time this afternoon to work on this. And so I would like to send, we are the host municipality for the landfill, and knowing how well Essex County recycles is going to mean a lot to our landfill. So I would like to write this letter to Circular Materials because they are not collecting the same information on recycling that Essex Windsor Solid Waste Authority was. So I would like to write this. I'll get a mover in a second or after because they don't know it. Okay. So to whom it may concern at Circular Materials, on behalf of the town of Essex, I'm writing to us express a concern regarding the lack of access to municipal recycling diversion data following Ontario's transition to producer responsibility framework and the assumption of the recycling program administered by Circular Materials. Prior to this transition, municipalities regularly received detailed information from the Essex Windsor Solid Waste Authority regarding recycling tonnage, diversion rates, contamination levels, and other key performance indicators. This information was invaluable in helping municipalities assess program effectiveness, educate our residents, identify opportunities for improvement, and monitor the impacts of recycling efforts locally on landfill capacity. As mayor of the municipality that hosts the Essex Windsor Solid Waste Authority, our regional landfill, I have a particular interest, or we have a particular interest in understanding how effectively our community is diverting recyclable materials from disposal. Without access to reliable local data, it becomes increasingly difficult to communicate with residents about their recycling performance, measure progress towards waste diversion goals, or evaluate effectiveness of public education initiatives. We understand that providing municipal level reporting may not currently be a regulatory requirement. However, we respectfully ask Circular Materials to reconsider its position and explore options for sharing diversion data with participating municipalities. Municipal government remains the closest level of government to residents, and we continue to play an important role in promoting recycling environmental stewardship within our communities. Providing access to municipal recycling data would improve transparency and accountability to residents, support local waste reduction and education, help municipalities understand diversion impacts, and foster stronger relationships between municipalities and Circular Materials, and contribute to the overall success of Ontario's recycling system. If resources are constrained currently prevent the provision of detailed reports, we welcome discussions regarding alternative reporting formats such as annual summaries or other approaches that could provide municipalities with meaningful insight into local recycling performance. The success of Ontario's recycling system depends on collective efforts of producers, service providers, municipalities, and residents. Access to accurate local data is an important part of maintaining public confidence and encouraging continued participation in recycling programs. Thank you for consideration of this request. I would welcome the opportunity to discuss this matter further. Mayor Sherry Bondi, supported by Councillor Verbeek. And I'll look for, moved by Councillor Verbeek, supported by Councillor Allard. Any questions? I would like to see if they would write back to us. Councillor Verbeek.
Through the mayor. For starters, I did not know you were going to write that letter, and I appreciate it. I'd just like to give a little bit of insight to the public as to what Counselor McGuire Blaze and I just experienced with this at our last landfill liaison committee meeting. It was celebrated that the first time in memorable history, we got our diversion number up to 34%. And as Catherine Kopet-Nepsy said, Counselor Verbeek, you've been commenting on that stagnant number for as many years as I can remember, because it has. It's been a bee in my bonnet. And now this past report showed that we had our first increase. I mean, we, as the host municipality, should be having 40 and 50% diversion rate. And now with circular, we have no idea what's happening. We're throwing everything into these big bins and they're assuring us that they're trucking it on down the highway. They've got great sorters, but we don't know what the throw off is. So here, for years and years, as our facility was building and growing, they would do the sorting and then we get these reports back that would tell us the price of the basket of goods, how much they were getting for the newspapers, how much they were getting for the clean papers, the cans. And you know, us residents would drive to make sure we put more in. But there would always be cast off, and that would be the soil, the stuff that just didn't make the cut, and it'd end up being routed right back to the landfill. They can't even get an answer as to how much of that stuff is just being rerouted back to the landfill and how much is actually being sorted and used. And so I think that this is just really timely that we are going to send this letter to support USWA, who are trying to get these important answers. So yeah, that's my reason for supporting.
Okay, well, you made the motion. Yeah, you moved it. I just wrote it. Okay. Any other comments? All in favor? It's carried unanimously. I'm sorry, council and administration. I do have one more. The Essex Windsor Regional Landfill Operations Annual Report. I obviously didn't have much fun this weekend. So reading the report, I do have a series of questions. I'm just going to float a few of them out there and then wondering perhaps, I don't know if the CAO can comment on some of my questions. Maybe we can Zoom with somebody from the landfill. But so I know that the report says that they're not accepting outside waste from other than Chatham-Kent, but I'd actually like to see that in writing, because our residents here in Windsor-Essex County are working really hard to divert waste, and now we're paying the green bin fee. So one of the things is if refuse is being collected and disposed of at the landfill from outside Essex County, residents across Essex County are paying significant green bin fees to divert organics to extend the life expectancy of our landfill. So council would like reassurance that these efforts are not being offset by taking substantial quantities of waste from outside of our region. And if we can look at that, and then recycling and diversion again. Since the transition to blue box materials, have we seen anything, any other waste going, like right now we're limited to one big blue box? Is the Essex Windsor Solid Waste Authority seeing, a surplus of cardboard put into the landfill because you can't all fit it all in your blue cart? The other, the recycling residue, can we look into that? That's what Councillor Verbeek said. I have some other questions on the green bin effectiveness. The waste was really high in July and August. Does that equal greenhouses? And if there's something we can do about that? Reporting and transparency. Do all 7 local municipalities receive this report? I know we do, but do we only do it because we're the host municipality? Like, it's such a good report. Given the public interest in the landfill operations and waste management, would the Essex Windsor Solid Waste Authority Board consider live streaming their meetings to improve transparency and accessibility? I think Essex Council should ask them as well. We're asking at County Council, but we are the host of our landfill, and it's such an important thing to have in our municipality. Can we look and see if asbestos disposal is trending down? Maybe we're getting through all of the asbestos in Essex County, maybe not. Just questions about leachate and other questions. We seem to have more fires at the landfill. Like, this report talks about several fires at the landfill, but I don't have a comparison from 2024 or 2023. And what public education are they doing in regards to the fires on, you know, they're saying it's battery disposal, but they need to maybe do more public education. I also couldn't see in the report, the report references landfill cells and future disposal areas, but I didn't really get a solid number on how many years they're estimating is left at the landfill. Maybe somebody else picked that up, but I didn't see that. And I'd like us, we need to start having these conversations. Like, these are very real conversations for our region. I want us to think like long-term. Looking ahead, what is our long-term plan once the current landfill reaches capacity? So I have a host of questions and I don't know what you'd like me to do with them, Madam CAO.
Through the chair, so if you don't mind forwarding me the list of questions, some of them we can answer internally, like statistics on the number of fires, because our fire departments would have responded to those calls. I know that we have that information handy. Others, we will need to reach out to USWA and obtain those answers. And so we can do that if I'm provided the questions.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Verbeek.
You, Madam Mayor, that better? Okay. Through the mayor and I guess to the mayor, that's excellent. These are all really good and detailed questions. Could some of council add questions if we had them to your list? For instance, I know that we're supposed to only take garbage from Essex County and Windsor, but we do take a limited amount from Ridgetown. However, I would like to know if any of that stuff from Ridgetown is coming from elsewhere. Perhaps, so I don't want to start rumor, but I have heard suggestions that the trucks were coming in from other areas down the highway to Ridgetown and then being transferred to our landfill. And I'd like to know if that's a direct question. I think that we need to have answered as well.
CAO Drusevich.
Through the chair, yeah, if members of council can just send in your questions to the CAO email, we'll compile them and we'll work internally to address, and then we'll work with USWA staff as well.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Hammond.
Yes, and through you, I'd like to address 13.1.13 regarding the green bins. And I noticed that it's going to be a $200 tax increase, which is a considerable hit. What I've noticed during the green bin program, which I like, is that the bins on my street aren't getting picked up every week by each. There's some this week. It seems to be more bi-weekly. I was wondering if we can research this a little more and maybe get a bi-weekly pickup as opposed to a weekly pickup, and maybe cut some of this cost a little bit. Though it is a good program, and but I don't see a significant waste being stored up in 1 week's time.
Okay, CAO Drusevich.
Through the chair, so this has been heavily debated at county council. My understanding, and I don't want to comment outside of my role as a CAO at the town of Essex, but my understanding is they are locked in a contract for a long-term period, and there would be financial penalties to amend what that contract looks like.
Thank you. I think it's a worthwhile question to ask. I think they need to keep it on their radar. So Councillor Hammond, you want to send a letter back to the county asking them to consider a green bin pickup every other week?
Yeah.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Hammond, supported by Councillor Allard, that we send a letter to the county asking if every other week green bin pickup is something that can be looked at in future contracts, or even with, if there's a potential clause in the contract to look at giving 18 months notice and getting out of that. I agree. I don't put my note every week. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
You, Madam Mayor, one of the reasons why the green bin's picked up weekly is because the smells and everything else that would be looming through every community if it's sat outside for 2 weeks. That's why they try to pick it up every week, because it's your most undesirables in there. So they want it picked up weekly so that the smells don't travel. That would be the reason for it.
Either my nose doesn't work or whatever, but I haven't noticed that, and I've had it as long as a month sometimes.
I agree with Counselor Hammond. I haven't put mine out in like 5 weeks and it's fine. It's not in my garage though. If we're going to we go to garbage, I don't know. Anyways, I think it's worth questioning. It's a lot of trucks on our roads as well, especially down our rural areas where we don't even have data to see how many homes in our rural areas. Okay, everybody knows the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Any other items of correspondence? Okay, moving on to correspondence to be received and supported. We have a resignation from Richard Malash from the Arts, Culture and Tourism Committee that council directed administration to write a letter of appreciation. Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Hammond. Any questions? You okay? Yeah. All in favor? It's carried unanimously. And now we have an appointment to the Arts, Culture, Tourism. Kyla Barnwell is a new committee member just in time. Moved by Councillor Mady, supported by Councillor Allard. All in favor? That's carried. Got it? Committee meeting minutes. We have meeting minutes in agenda item 14. We have drainage, Essex Municipal Heritage, the Appeals Committee, the Personnel Committee, and the Drainage Board. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Verbeek. We do see that a few of them say unapproved, and I'm wondering, Director Malandrucolo, if you could just explain that I noticed that, and just for clarity.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Through you, because of timing, sometimes the minutes of certain committees can't go back to the committees for approval before they come to council. And sometimes we need council to support those minutes so that we can do other things with them. So that's what's happening in this case. What will happen now is council's approved them, so they're council approved. It'll go back to the committees to approve them as council approved. If the committee doesn't approve them, then we'll come back to council. But if they do, then those minutes are finally approved.
Thank you for that explanation. Did I get a mover in a second? No. Okay, all in favor? It's getting to be a long night, and that's carried unanimously. Nothing under financial new business. I'll go to Director Malandrucolo for notices of motion.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. I have 2 notices of motion being brought forward tonight for presentment and will be brought forward for council's consideration at the July 6, 2026 meeting. The first notice of motion, moved by Mayor Bondi, that council direct administration to prepare a report regarding the current zoning regulations governing the placement of pool equipment on residential properties, including the rationale for the existing setback requirements and any concerns or issues that have been identified through administration, residents, or recent applications. Administration should consider the following, should consider including the following in the report. Number 1, a review of the current regulations and their purpose. Number 2, information regarding any requests, complaints, or concerns received related to the existing setback requirements. Number 3, an overview of the minor variance process as it relates to pool equipment setbacks and the frequency of related applications if available. And number 4, a comparison with setback requirements in neighboring or comparable municipalities. The second notice of motion, moved by Mayor Bondi, that council direct administration to prepare a report outlining the municipality's advertising, communications, and media expenditures over the past 4 years, with costs categorized by media type, including print advertising, digital advertising, social media promotion, radio, and other communications related advertising, and that administration should consider including the following in the report. Number 1, a breakdown of annual expenditures by category. Number 2, identification of the primary publications, platforms, and vendors utilized. Number 3, an explanation of any significant changes or trends in advertising and communications spending, including shifts between media types. Number 4, a summary of any changes in advertising or communication strategies or practices during this period. And number 5, information on how advertising effectiveness, public outreach, and engagement are evaluated. And further, that the report be presented to council prior to the delivery of the 2027 draft budget to assist council in its review of communications priorities and related budget allocations.
Thank you, Director Malandrucolo. Any reports from members of council this evening? There is a bike giveaway event, Pay What You Can. I've already mentioned it, but I'll say it again. It's at the Essex Home Hardware, 8 to 12. So if you have a child in the area and they need a bike, come out and see us. Councillor Verbeek.
I just really want to put a shout out, like kudos to the committee that put on the Music Fest at Coan Park this weekend to raise funds for cancer and cancer research. They always do a bang up job, and even with the weather trying to, deter things, it didn't. It was just a wonderful event. So that's a really hardworking committee.
Thank you, Counselor Verbeek. Counselor Hammond?
I just want to make a shout out to the Kisman Club and the Rotary Club for another successful Greg Horkey Annual Fishing Derby. A new tradition has been set as the third generation Anderson is the new champion for 2026. It's quite impressive. Family legacy carries on. Hope to see everybody again next year.
Thank you, Counselor Hammond. Anything else from any members of council? All right. Moving on to our bylaws. Bylaws that require a third and final reading. Bylaw 2537 being a bylaw to provide part lot control exemption for certain lands within the registered plan. Be read a third time, finally passed. Moved by Counselor Hammond, supported by Counselor Deputy Mayor Shepley. Any questions? All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Bylaw 2544 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the June 1st regular meeting of council of the Corporation of the Town of Essex. Be read a third time, finally passed. Moved by Counselor McGuire Blaze, supported by Counselor Guerin. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Bylaw 2541 being a bylaw to amend Bylaw 1037, the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Town of Essex for the lands municipally known as 80 County Road 50. Be read third time and finally passed on June 15th. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councilor McGuire Blaze. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Oh, sorry, that is carried. Sorry, okay. I think that was posed by Councilor Allard and Councilor Mady. I think Councilor Verbeek wanted to vote in favor. I've been trying to, because people can only see how I vote on camera. So I've been trying, I don't know if you've noticed, Council, I've been trying to say if you're opposed, whether you like that practice or not, I don't know. We do need a push button so it pops up on the screen so that everybody knows how we voted, I think is important. Okay, at this point, bylaws requiring a first, second reading. Bylaw 2546 being read a first time, second time, provisionally adopted on June 15th. Moved by Counselor Guerin, Counselor Hammond. Any questions? All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Motion to adjourn. Counselor Mady, Counselor Hammond. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried unanimously. And I hope to see you at our walkabout. We have in Harrow and then at the Colchester Harbor next Monday. So join us on the streets.